Morning, Mr. Brown.
Good morning, Honorable Kababa. Morning.
Morning. I hope you hear me.
Can hear you clearly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What time is the meeting?
We start at 9:30, Honorable Shaba.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Recording in progress.
Good morning, Honorable Member. Good morning to the department and good morning to everyone who is in the meeting today. I hope that I'm audible. Mr. Brown, am I audible?
Yes, Chairperson, you are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So good morning to everyone and to the department as well. I think we should start honestly with our meeting. It is 9:30. We are essentially today welcoming you to this portfolio committee meeting where we are going to be engaging on the annual performance plan and the budget of the department. We have, of course, a report on the anti-bullying strategies that the department is employing in schools. And this, of course, has been informed by various reports that we've seen on social media of bullying incidences in schools, but also a complaint that we had received as a portfolio committee, which we had forwarded to the department to investigate and give us a report. And I do hope that members have received that report. It is one of the most concerning incidences that are happening in school. It is, according to us, something that we should put our hands on deck to combat, because in the past it has caused, it has had dire consequences for the learners who were victims of bullying. So we requested the department to actually brief us on the strategies that they are implementing in schools to ensure that we combat bullying. That is one of the reports that we'll be receiving. However, the two reports that we'll be receiving, the annual performance plan and the budget, we've already engaged on the two reports extensively before. However, we've had to redo this process, and as a result, we're redoing this process. So we're going to request the department to really just take us through what has changed from what they presented earlier. What exactly has changed in the presentation? What has been impacted by the new budget that has been tabled and adopted by Parliament, the fiscal framework that has been adopted by Parliament? What has really changed? How has it impacted on what they had planned and what they had presented to us earlier on? So we're hoping that we stick to that so that it gives us ample time to look at the changes and to engage on the changes. And we also are going to request the department to really be brief on the report on the anti-bullying strategies as well, so that it gives members enough time to engage with your presentation, because members have received these presentations. So with that said, members, welcome to the meeting. And Mr. Brown, can we please fly to the agenda and let us deal with the apologies and roll call?
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me just start with the roll call. It's yourself, Honorable Maimela, Honorable Kabanchaba, Honorable Govana, Honorable Low. I do see Honorable Magagula is on the platform. She did indicate that she'll join, but she may not be able to participate due to some ill health. I have Dr. Christians, Honorable Jordan, and Honorable Shikwambana, Honorable Ngobo. Apologies I have is from Honorable Ngubeni and Honorable Komane. Chair, and then just from the department side, I know that the DM indicated her unavailability due to her being traveling currently. Those are the apologies, Chair. I will just flag the agenda.
Honorable Gaza has her hand up. She's also in the meeting.
I'm also in the meeting, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable
Gaza
Gasa.
is in the meeting.
Thank you.
Any other member that we have not acknowledged? Okay, so thank you. So on the agenda, of course, I've already outlined what we'll be engaging on today. So let us welcome the department led by the minister and the DG and the team. I do know that as it was indicated to me by Mr. Brown that you are presenting the very same items to the select committee or the standing committee in the NCOP. We do hope that we don't keep you long so that you can actually also show your presence in that committee. So, Minister DG, over to you for the presentations.
Good morning, Chairperson, and good morning, members. I hope I am audible.
Yes, you are audible, Minister, but your voice is different today. Maybe you might.
Yeah, Chairperson and members, my apologies. My voice is different. I have really severe case of flu. And so I do also beg your indulgence if I can keep my camera off. But I am in meeting. So yes, it is me. I promise, Chairperson, it's not an imposter. Honorable members and colleagues from the DBE, a very good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to come and table the revised APP today, and of course to speak to you a lot more in detail around our anti-bullying strategy and campaign in our schools. Chairperson, as many members would know, we meet today under very complex and tragic circumstances. The sector continues to operate under very tight fiscal constraints, and of course, there has been the recent natural disasters in multiple provinces, which have added immense pressure, disrupting teaching and learning, damaging infrastructure, and really stretching what is already limited resources. And so I think it would be amiss of me, Chair, if I wouldn't say on behalf of the department, we extend our deepest condolences to the learners, the teachers, and the families who have lost loved ones in this past week due to some of these the floods and these natural disasters. I think I speak on behalf of all of us here as members of parliament that their pain is shared by all of us, and as a department we are committed to making sure that those schools have been supported and provided with psychosocial support, both the learners and the teachers, and of course the families are also being supported by the provincial government of the Eastern Cape. The President and Minister Hlabisa and I were in Mthatha last week to go and really assess the extent of the damage, and so that is still ongoing work, but it is really a big tragedy that has befallen us. Despite these challenges, Chairperson, we are resolute in our mission. And so in line with the directive from the presidency, we've submitted a revised APP for 2025-2026. Although the budget envelope remains unchanged, performance indicators have somehow been adjusted. I heard your plea there, Chair, to say we have essentially tabled the APP before the portfolio committee. And so what you would like the team to do is really to highlight what has changed. And so very little has changed materially, Chair, but there are some indicators which have been adjusted to align with the MTDP of 2024 to 2029. And in some cases, the targets have also been rationalized so that they can be also in line with our fiscal reality. So our core strategic focus remains unchanged, and that is around expanding access to quality early child development, a major focus on the foundation phase, particularly on literacy and numeracy, expanding mother tongue-based bilingual education, ensuring the better placement of Funza Lushaka graduates, and of course, strengthening the delivery core programs such as the school nutrition program and school infrastructure. So, as I said, Chair, there aren't many technical adjustments. They are aligned to the broader transformation goals of the Government of National Unity and ensuring that no learner is left behind. But the team will sort of bring to the portfolio committee's attention to specific targets that have changed. Then on the second issue, Chair, the second item is one of great concern to all of us. That is the prevalence of bullying and violence in our schools and the toll that it's taken and is taking on learners' well-being, academic performance, and mental health. But also, this kind of behavior and the violence that we're seeing in some schools is also adversely affecting our educators. And so our presentation will outline a consolidated national response, which will show the implementation of the National School Safety Framework across all schools, the expanded intergovernmental campaigns that are covering 6 provinces with the Free State next in line, a review of our bullying prevention manual in partnership with the Institute for Security Studies, a growing online safety program, which is addressing cyberbullying, which is now active in 5 provinces, partnerships with organizations such as the Film and Publication Board, Media Monitoring, and the Department of Communications. The department is committed to not only policy reform, Chair, but also just empowering schools with the tools to recognize and prevent and respond to bullying as early and as effectively as possible so that we can safeguard our learners. So, Chair, thank you very much again for the opportunity to come and present the revised APP and our anti-bullying strategy. I'm now going to hand over to the team. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister, and good morning, Chairperson and all the honourable members. Chair, what we'll do is to ask Mr. Pariachi to lead in terms of the presentation of the revised APP. As the Chair has alluded, this is a matter that has served before this committee previously, and so we'll ask Mr. Pariachi to just focus on those areas where we've made some changes. I will then allow Ms. Molalekwa, who is representing the CFO in this meeting, because of this clash that we have that the Chair's alluded to make some comments about the budget. And then Mr. Sifiso Ngobesi, who is the Director for School Safety, will take us through the bullying presentation. Mr. Pariachi, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning to the Honourable Chair, honourable members. We're going to be brief with the presentation as requested, and Ms. Mosemeke, our Chief Director, will take us through this presentation with the changes that have occurred. Stella?
Thank you, DDG, and good morning, Honourable Chairperson and honourable members of the Portfolio Committee, my Minister, Deputy Minister, Acting DG Dr. Whittle, who's leading the delegation, and all senior managers on the platform. I'll be taking you through the summarized version of what we have retabled in Parliament. All right. Okay, can we see the presentation?
Stella, I can't, but I'm not sure about others. I know our network is quite slow. Can anyone else see the presentation?
No,
No.
Dr.
Okay, it's
Wotwe.
up now.
Oh,
It's up now. Thanks,
Yeah.
thanks, Stella.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Am I audible?
Yes, you're
Yes.
good.
All right. Okay. So to the portfolio committee, as we indicated, I think I'm experiencing a delay in my presentation because I'm trying to move to the next slide and there's no movement on my side. Oh my goodness. Let me stop sharing for a second and see. And try again. Is it back on?
Yes.
Okay. The slides are still not moving. Can I request the Mr. Brown to assist me with sharing? I will speak to the slides. Otherwise, I'm going to delay the committee.
Thank you, Ms. Moshimege. Let me just try if you can just release. Thank you. I'll try from my side.
Thank you. The short version, which has got about, yes, this is the one. All right. Slideshow. Thank you. This is the presentation outline. As indicated already by the chair, it's going to be a very short presentation. We will do a short introduction and purpose of the presentation. Then I will take you through the areas that are revised in the 2025-26 annual performance plan and the recommendation. We can move to the next slide. So the purpose is to present to the Portfolio Committee on Basic Education our revised 2025-26 annual performance plan. This retabling was informed by the communication we received from the presidency that directed members of the executive to resubmit the strategic plans and annual performance plans following the adoption of the fiscal framework. And for us as a department, after Budget 3.0, we did not have any changes that warranted an overhaul of our strategic plan and even the annual performance plan, even though we have a few issues to present to you. So the budget did not change, but there were a few gaps that we are going to share with you. This slide shows a summary of the entire APP, which has got 66 indicators, 5 in Program 1, 32 in Program 2, 12 in Program 3, 10 in Program 4, and 7 in Program 5. And then the rest of the columns are just showing the distribution in terms of whether we have set annual targets, biannual targets, or quarterly targets. And as you can see, the bulk of our indicators have annual targets. But this is a big improvement from the previous APP of the 5-year term starting 2020 to 2024, where a very large percentage of our indicators had annual targets. You can move to the next slide. Now, the changes are starting on the slide. We revised the APP firstly to align with the medium-term development plan 2024 to 2029. When the MTDP was finally published on the DPME website, we realized that there were a few indicators that, as we went through the process since August last year until the beginning of March, end of February, we found new indicators that were allocated to the sector where we are a lead department. And the first indicator, as now captured in the APP, is indicator 2.1.11. and 2.1.12, they are related. This is where we are measuring the number of candidates achieving 60% and above in mathematics in the first indicator in the NSC examinations. And the second one is about physical science. This is an old indicator in the medium-term strategic framework, so it has come back into the MTDP. So basically, we are continuing where we left off. Now, those are the targets that we have set because now that it is in the MTDP, we had to make sure it is also represented in the annual performance plan. Now, for this indicator, because it is not new, we are basically to implement it, we are going to continue doing what we are doing as a department, where we do CAPS monitoring, where we do monitoring of the implementation of the NCS, as a curriculum statement, and also just monitoring districts on improving the bachelor passes. But specifically for maths and science, the strategies that are in place to improve the percentage passes there is on improving the proficiency of teachers and also providing the appropriate LTSM, developing learner and teacher guides so that teachers are able to do the right thing in the classroom. The third indicator, 3.4.1, just go back, Mr. Yeah. Number of job opportunities created through the Basic Education Employment Initiative. You will be aware that the president, or even in the previous term, there was a presidential youth initiative that ran across sectors, and we were participating as the basic department, the education department of basic education. So we have been implementing this, and we are continuing for this new term. We at the moment, based on the budget that is allocated, we are targeting 200,000 young people to be taken through this program through the BEEI. And already as a department, we are embarking on training of those young people to be able to do different activities in our schools. You can move to the next slide. Here we are showing indicators where a title was changed or titles were changed also for MTDP alignment. The first one, indicator 517, the old indicator was reading number of learners competing at the National School Support Championship. This indicator, we are actually playing a supporting role. We are not the lead department. The lead department is the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture. We are playing a supporting role, but within the department, we came up with an indicator that is supporting that DSEC indicator. And we have just reworded the indicator to read learners participating in the National School Sports Championships, because our aim as a sector is to encourage learners to participate, especially that we have combined, physical education and sports programs in our schools. And the intention is over the MTEF, we are targeting 3,300 learners to participate in sporting activities. The next indicator is on number of special schools offering occupational or vocational subjects. This is another indicator that is aligned with the MTDP, and the old indicator was reading number of schools of skill offering occupationally oriented subjects. So we have revised it to align accordingly, and the targets have not changed, even though the indicator has slightly been reworded. If you go into the APP, there's a page on page 57 where we cover what we're going to be doing with vocational and occupational subjects. This is part of our way of implementing the three-stream model, and we are piloting these subjects in schools of skill, developing the curriculum so that in the FET band, then learners can have an opportunity to choose which pathway they want to follow. Another process that we are busy with is on articulation, because we want to adopt a comparable occupational qualification instead of coming up with a separate one completely when these things already exist in the country. Through the QCTO, we've got occupational subjects and programs that are in place. We can move to the next slide. Here we have two indicators where targets have been reduced because of budget constraints. Even though our budget as an organization has not changed, this particular program looked at their targets and their operational budget on monitoring the foundation phase teachers trained in numeracy and literacy. The indicators are related, but one is on numeracy, the other one is on literacy. And the targets were set at 45 for the MTF period, and the revised targets have been reduced to 27 to align with the available operational budget. Next slide. This should be our last slide. In the strategic plan, we have one small change. Earlier on, when I mentioned the indicator on the maths and science, physical science, maths and physical science pass percentage in the NSC, this is an indicator that we found in the MTDP, and we realized that the targets that are in the MTDP are not in line with our numbers as we know them in the system. So what we have done here is to revise the baseline and then also the 5-year targets, because in the strategic plan, it is an outcome indicator expressed as a percentage, as we can see there. So we have adjusted the baseline. The baseline, the old one was 16.3, and the correct baseline based on 2024 results is 17.7 for maths and 18.1. The 5-year target for maths was 26.3. We have reduced it to 22.6 based on our realities. And for physical science, the 5-year target was 27.6. It has gone down to 19.3. Next slide, Mr. Brown. Okay, we are therefore recommending to the portfolio committee to note the changes that have been implemented in the annual performance plan and discuss with management the issues raised in the APP. Thank you very much. I'll hand back to the acting DG.
Thank you, Ms. Mosemeka. Honorable Chair, Dr. Whittle has joined the standing committee. He'll come back to us. It starts at 10 o'clock. I'll hold the fort while he's away. So we're going to move on to Ms. Molelekwa on the financial portion.
Sorry, Mr. Padiachi. Chair, may I please be excused to go and open the meeting with the select committee? I will be back on this one.
I think you can proceed.
Yeah, I think you can proceed.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, honorable members, Minister, acting DG, and colleagues on the call. Chairperson, on the budget, we do not have a new presentation because there has not been any changes on the budget. The budget as presented previously is still the same, but we will answer questions should they arise. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Insetsa. Chair, can we move on to the anti-bullying, or you'd like to take discussion on the annual report and the strategic plan?
Sorry, I think the chair has problems of connections, Mr. Brown. That's why maybe she's not responding. And then,
Thank you, Honorable Low. I'm not sure whether we should maybe just elect an acting chair while chairperson is off the platform, or should we just allow Honorable Low to continue? Members, it's in your hands.
Thank you very much, Honorable Brown. Yes, we second Honorable Low to continue. Is Honorable Chaba.
Thank you, Honorable Chaba. I have a mover for Honorable Low. Can I have a seconder for that, please?
Christians, second. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Dr. Christians. Honorable Low, you can go ahead. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. I think we can proceed with the second presentation, and then immediately after that, we will take the members to get questions of clarity. It will assist us so that we're able to climatize and do them all. Thank you. We can continue, Acting DG.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. We're going to move to the anti-bullying. Mr. Ngobizi will take us through the presentation.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and honorable members. Greetings to the Minister as well as Deputy Minister and all senior managers in the department. I'm trying to upload. Hopefully the presentation will can be seen. Can I just check if the presentation is visible?
Yes, you can put it in slide mode.
I have done it in slide mode from my side. Possibly is the same delay that Ms. Mosemeke struggled with. Is it still not showing on a slide mode?
Mr. Ngubesi, it's Llewellyn. If I may assist, if you can just drop your presentation, I'll put up mine. Just 1 second.
All right. Thank you very much. If you can move to slide number 2. The purpose of this presentation is to present the anti-bullying strategies to the portfolio committee. Thank you. Next slide. I must start by saying that the department has a zero tolerance on any form of bullying, whether it's homophobic bullying, whether it's social media bullying that is taking place on cyberspace, or any form of bullying. The department has a zero tolerance when it comes to any form of bullying, because we know the effects of bullying and the harmful and the disruptive nature they cause for us, especially because we are a department of basic education, and our most prized moment has to be the outcome, the learning outcomes in the classroom. So with bullying, we know it comes with declining in terms of marks and grades that learners receive. We also know about the psychological harm that happens, which end up resulting in absenteeism and even at worst, suicide. There have been suicides that have been recorded in the school as a result of bullying. That is why the department has taken a zero tolerance when it comes to bullying. Next slide, please. That is just a definition of bullying. I'm not going to dwell on it very much, but we know that in most cases, bullying takes a pattern where there is repeated aggressive behavior that is characterized by power imbalance. You have a learner that has got more power and is exerting that power over the other learners. And the difficulties around bullying is that in most cases, sometimes it happens in a subtle way. Sometimes it happens within the schools, in environments or places within the school where the view of the teachers is restricted. And that is what sometimes cause these challenges. It becomes difficult to prove when a learner has reported that they are being bullied, because in most cases there would be no evidence, but in other circumstances there is evidence that becomes available. Next slide. Generally, what we have seen in the sector is that there has been a decline in terms of violence that is experienced by learners in schools over time. But we do know that issues around bullying, as the minister has indicated, is really a serious concern for us, because we are seeing a lot of reports that are coming from schools, parents complaining, even as far as the national office, in terms of dissatisfaction with how bullying cases have been reported in the sector. Next slide. As a Department of Basic Education, we have a strategy that has been adopted within SADC, which is called Care and Support for Teaching and Learning. And as a country, we also know that the Cabinet in 2022 adopted an integrated crime and violence prevention strategy. We, as basic education as a sector, ours in this integrated crime and violence prevention strategy is to make sure that we come up with programs that are directed at early violence prevention, because we are entrusted with learners as young as 0 to 12 years in our ECD centers and primary school. Ours is to make sure that we come with practical steps and practical programs that are aimed at making sure that we address the issue of violence as early as possible. Somebody made a remark and said, it is always good to ensure that parenting is done properly when learners are young, when children are young, so that we don't have to deal with difficult teenagers as they grow up. So ours has been that we know that raising a child and making sure that you instill good and proper values is not just the work that the Department of Basic Education can do alone. As a result, this is why we work with a number of government departments in implementation of programs that are intended to make sure that the learner at a school level is at the center of receiving all the support that other government departments are providing. Hence, you see that image on the left-hand side, where the learner is at the center of, support from local government, support from different sister departments as well. Next slide. In terms of our approach as a department looking at bullying, we have partnered with, as the minister indicated earlier, we have partnered with the Institute for Security Studies to look at exactly what is it that works. How can we support schools much more better than what we are currently doing? And the research that has been provided from different sources across the world is indicating that, bullying, if we had to dent the harmful effect of bullying at schools, it has to be done at a school level because it is much more effective. It can't be escalated to circuit offices and district offices. The school itself must be in a position to deal with issues of bullying decisively and to ensure that it looks into, the support to the victim, but also, background check to the perpetrators, because more often than not, we realize that the bullies themselves are carrying trauma that comes from back in the communities, in their homes, and they bring it, and it plays out as bullying in schools. I mentioned on the early violence prevention program, and that is why we are working with GIZ, focusing on the 0 to 12-year-olds. These are ECD centers and primary schools, because We do believe that once learners have been engaged and they know good values that we want to instill, then by the time we reach the high schools where a lot of bullying cases are reported, at least learners have been socialized in a way that they do understand the harmful nature of bullying. One of the other ways that we know that works is when the schools have functional school-based support teams, where issues of support for the victims, for the learners who are experiencing bullying is sorted out within the school. And often we see that there has been that, learners think that a bully is somebody that cannot be tackled. It's somebody that cannot be, the school cannot do anything. But over the past, years and months, when we have been rolling out our campaigns, we have been promoting the fact that learners need to report bullying. The only way that we can stop these bullies in our school is when learners stand up and report and not be afraid of reporting the bullies, because often we realize that both the victims as well as the perpetrators are young people that need support and assistance. And we have also noted that mostly schools that have got well-developed code of conduct often do very well when it comes to issues of bullying, where parents have participated even in crafting the code of conduct. But where the code of conduct was just a formality, where it was developed as a formality, schools will even struggle in a way to deal decisively with the issues around bullying. We have also been advocating to our district as we monitor them that they have to be efficient disciplinary processes. A victim cannot report bullying and then 3 weeks down the line, the school has not done anything. So it is a campaign that we are currently busy with in terms of making sure that district prioritize this matter as something that is really critical, and that schools are on board when it comes to supporting learners and parents who are experiencing bullying in schools. Next slide, please. What have we developed in terms of also making sure that we come up with manuals, we come up with frameworks that are supposed to assist schools to develop their own strategies in terms of combating not only bullying, but violence in general around the school. So we have these frameworks, which I will not dwell much on them. If you can move to the next slide, where I explain a bit about what each is all about. The National School Safety Framework is a guiding strategy, an overarching strategy that the department has developed. It empowers schools to conduct safety audits, complete the diagnostic tools that are attached to the document, and then develop plans that are unique to their own schools. One of the recommendation that we always give to principal whenever we are training on the National School Safety Framework is that, yes, the department will give you a manual or a tool or a framework. It is also incumbent upon each and every school to then tailor-make its own policy within the school, because schools are located in different places, in different areas. I come from a place where there are a lot of snakes and there are a lot of monkeys. And often when children are playing outside, monkeys will come and take and steal from lunchbox, and especially for the little ones in grade R's and grade 1s. So that then principals need to make sure that they plan ahead in terms of how they deal with the environment in which their schools are. So in terms of this, it empowers each and every school to actually conduct all these audits, do diagnostic assessment, and then develop uniquely safety plans that speak to their own schools. It also ensures that school safety committees, where parents and teachers and other local structures meet and actually look at issues that are affecting schools in those particular areas, and bullying becomes the center of those discussions, so that then schools plan in terms of what they need to do as schools. In terms of this protocol, because we realize that training is a challenge in terms of going to each and every school, we have even made it digital, so that teachers and everybody who is within the school, SGPs, are able to do this training even in the comfort of their homes. That is why we were able to then digitize it, and teachers are able to get their professional development points. As you can see there, so far in terms of the stats, more than 327 officials and teachers and support staff have been trained on this framework. If you move to the next slide, you will see that we also have these protocols that are a step-by-step for schools to report any incident of corporal punishment and any incident of sexual report that might have happened at the school. If you move to the next slide, and all these are just attempts to make sure that schools are violent-free spaces. We have noted on the issue of bullying that it has not just moved into, different forms of homophobic bullying. It has also, moved into cyberspace where learners are bullying each other. As young as, your primary school age, one of the schools where we had to intervene, it was of learners, girl learners at a Quintile 5 schools, where they are really saying mean and nasty things to each other via social media platforms. And we have realized that, it doesn't work if it is just going to be a talk and it ends there. We have now integrated this online safety into the LO curriculum, and currently we are capacitating subject advisors and teachers who are teaching LO. We have been now to 7 provinces. We are only remaining with 2 provinces, and we are supported in rolling out this program by the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies. We are supported by Film and Publications Board. We are supported by UNICEF, as well as other entities that are in this particular space. In terms of the manual that we had in the past, we had this manual, but we have realized that we need to beef it up with evidence-based. What is really working in other countries, in other places, because we have noted that bullying is not just a South African problem. Other countries are also experiencing. So in terms of the manual that we used to have for bullying, we have realized that it needs a lot of strategies that teachers can use in their classroom, that principals, SGPs as well. And so that is why we have, for many parts, been looking at what really works. What is literature telling us about, what really works? Because we don't just want to give out manuals for the sake of ticking boxes and say, we have done, we are doing training on this particular manual, but we want something that is a strategy that is actually going to work. And that is why we are assisted in this space by the Institute for Security Studies in terms of making sure that our manuals speak to the current issues around bullying. Next slide. And also, I think I've mentioned the issues of strong code of conduct and anti-bullying policies within the school, but we have also infused working on the ground on these interdepartmental campaigns where bullying is part of the social ills that we are trying to, among many, trying to address, among many, like corporal punishment, gender-based violence, drugs and substance abuse. And when we are on the ground, it's not just one day. We stay with these communities for a month, doing precursor activities in different schools, especially schools where they are reporting high incidences of gender-based violence and also issues around bullying. So far, we have been to Limpopo, Gauteng, KZN, Eastern Cape, Mpumalanga, and Northwest. And our next targeted province is the Free State. And we have also realized that as we struggle with the bullying in schools, there is also a lot of good work that is done by other organizations on the ground. For example, there is a movie that has been produced by young people that the department has partnered with the Njabulo Media. It becomes a tool that we are using where we show learners incidents or clips in that particular movie, and then we have discussion with learners. The good thing is that the movie has got a portion that is directed for primary schools as well as a portion that is directed to high school. And this has been shown in some of the schools in Limpopo where we have the issue of that learner in the report that the chair spoke about earlier on. In our monitoring of 25 districts, which is an indicator in our APP, we also check how our district are supporting schools, especially deal with bullying. And sometimes we do see the shortfalls in terms of the work that is done by the district in supporting school. And then we capacitate district. We have made intervention in districts such as Sitibeng East and West, Mogalakwena, as well as South Capricorn, where we found that schools are not supported to the extent that we would want to see them being supported. We also, I think I've mentioned the issue of bullying manual. I'm not gonna deal with that. Even the issue around working with other departments, especially taking it on the cyberbullying. In the past, bullying will happen in the school, sometimes even after school, at the gate of the school when the learners are going home. But with the advent of social media and technology, learners are bullied even in their bedroom, in the privacy of their bedrooms, because videos are circulated where learners were being violated or something being done on a learner, and it keeps on playing and people are laughing and making comments. So it is in that space that we felt this kind of content needs to go into the classroom so that teachers are empowered enough to be able to communicate and teach learners about the harmful nature of bullying other children. Next slide. The DBE is therefore committed towards addressing bullying and all other forms of violence in schools. And we are urging all South Africans to unite in the fight against bullying so that the environment at the school is conducive for teaching and learning. And lastly, we recommend that the Portfolio Committee notes this report and discusses the report. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Back to the acting DG.
No, thanks very much, Mr. Pareachi. Back to you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much for the presentations that are detailed. Members, we will now take hands for engagement so that we are able to engage the presentation and also get clarity seeking questions. And I see that at the end of Mam Gaza, it's up, Mam Kaba. Can you start with Mam Kaba? And then I'll note other hands as we go on. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Mam Kaba, let's start with Mam Gaza, then you will follow after. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Acting Chairperson. Greetings to honorable members, Minister, DG, and everyone in attendance. Let me start by appreciating the reports and the presentation. For me, I would like to focus more on the reports on the anti-bullying. To start with Honorable Acting Chairperson, I've realized that the school bullying it remains a serious and devastating issue in South Africa, and it comes with severe consequences for learners, mental health, academic performance, and long-term well-being. So, despite all these existing policies like your South African Schools Act and the guidelines for the prevention and management of bullying in schools, I still feel that the enforcement remains inconsistent and there are so many cases that go unreported. So my first question, I just want to know what concrete evidence exists to show that current anti-bullying policies are effectively reducing incidents in schools, particularly in under-resourced areas. How many reported cases have resulted in disciplinary actions, and what barriers prevent victims from seeking help? Furthermore, Acting Chairperson, I just want to check, why has the government failed to implement mandatory nationwide anti-bullying programs with trauma support for affected learners? What measurable steps has the Department of Basic Education taken to train educators in identifying and dismantling discriminatory bullying? I've heard the presenter spoke about online trainings, but then my question is about schools that are not connected in terms of having access or on online platforms. Also, Acting Chair, I just want to check, why is there no centralized public accessible database tracking bullying incident and outcomes? I think Acting Chairperson, until these gaps are not addressed with transparency and accountability, we will still in a position to see e-bullying continuing to thrive in South African schools. So we really need to have some sort of transparency and accountability. Moving to the next report, Chairperson, I will look at the APP. I have some few questions there. The first question here, I would like for the minister to provide a detailed breakdown of how the unchanged budget allocations led to reduces targets, including the programs that were deprioritized and why, since the APP admits to reducing targets due to budget constraints, yet it's claiming the budget allocations did not change. So these contradictions suggest either fiscal mismanagement or a lack of political will to prioritize education. Can I stop there, Honorable Acting Chair? Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Ma'am Kaba.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Let me close my visibility, Chairperson. Let me welcome all the presentation that has been presented before us. Firstly, Chair, let me greeting to you, Chairperson, Acting Chair, and the Chairperson is absent by the nature of our network. Chair, greeting to the department and the DGs. Chairperson, this issue of bullying has a long-term effect, Chair, that can affect the individual being bullied long into their adult life. It also, Chair, they may experience depression and anxiety, changes in their sleeping pattern, and many, many more symptoms, Chairperson, in this issue of bullying. Chair, the presentation talks about it can also be cycle enough that teachers are not even aware about the bullying violence in the schools. Chairperson, it also continuing, the presentation said, empowers schools to develop their anti-bullying policies. My Chairperson, I have a problem about that. If the schools, they want to start now to develop their policies for the anti-bullying at school, this thing, Chairperson, does not start now. Bullying, sexual harassment, substance abuse, it started a long time ago at schools, Chair. Why the department, my question is that, why the department, they were staying longer to do not develop this policy to prevent this bullying at school? Or maybe they were waiting for someone to have died or leaving the schools, because this thing cost our children to leave the schools. Some are dying. Why they were taking so long to do things, to do this policy? Again, Chairperson, the department, if I may ask, Chair, why when they hiring teachers, or maybe they do, I don't know, did they, maybe am I asking this way, did they train teachers to be an expert when they are dealing with our children at schools, to know when the child or when the learner is in the mood of not listening? Because when the child is being bullied or having a raped at home, even this thing happen even at home. When the child is in the mood of having something wrong to his body or his mind, when we talk about this child, the child can talk this, child can go that side. We can see there is something wrong in this child. If the department have those expert teachers to know and understand, because they are dealing with our children at daily basis. The children, they stay with their teachers from early in the morning until afternoon. The teachers, they must be trained to know and to quickly see when the child has a problem. Chairperson, now we are trying to give this department the ECD. Actually, we are giving this department the ECD. If they don't have a police or they don't have expertise to see when it is something wrong in the child, how are they going to deal with this ECD? If they don't have a police to see an adult child, but you are still giving them this small child, this smaller child, where they supposed to see when there is something wrong with the child. How are they going to deal with this ECD? The small, the little one. If they can't see. They want now to develop a policy for now. Why did they take so long? And when are they going to implement this? developing anti-bullying, because these bullying things, as there are two ways, the cyber bullying and the physical bullying, all of them, they affect individually, and they make that individually to be sitting with this thing long time in his or her life. Even if is it at a university, it can think about the person who was bullying him or her at the schools. Chairperson, my question is that, when are they going to implement, and why did they take so long to develop this anti-bullying at school? Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you very much, Mam Kaba. Honorable Christians.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning to all my colleagues, and thank you for the presentations. Chair, I'm going to start with the APP and the budget. I have 3 questions there. So with regard to the budget allocations now, it shows a nominal increase across most of the programs, particularly in Program 2 and Program 3. But the revised 2025-2026 annual performance plan, this actually confirms that several output targets have been scaled down due to, as we know, the current fiscal constraints. Now, this has obviously raised concerns that the department may not meet service delivery obligations that will directly impact learners across the country. And specifically, this will impact curriculum materials, the National School Nutrition Program, as well as the provision of learner transport. Now, my question to the department is, with regards to the performance indicators, which was presented to us today, we saw that there was a significant downward revision, obviously due to the budget pressures, but particularly in Program 2, where we see curriculum policy support and monitoring, has the target for the distribution of workbooks from grade R to grade 9 or the delivery of remedial support materials been reduced? And then in Program 5, the educational enrichment services. Now, this program, as we've seen, they oversees the NSNP, and obviously they have targets for the daily meal provision, the breakfast coverage, nutritional quality standards, etc. And I want to know, have they been revised? And if so, how will this affect food security for learners in no-fee schools, particularly? And then in Program 4, which is the planning, information and assessment. Now, I want to know, have there been reductions in targets here? Because it's not clear. Specifically targets related to the number of learners provided with transport, or in fact the schools that were prioritized for infrastructure upgrades, like water, sanitation, or the internet. Now, to end that first question off, can the department indicate how it plans to mitigate the educational and psychosocial impact of these particular reductions, which is, of course, the NSNP, the learner transport.
Recording stopped.
The curriculum policy, the workbook delivery, and so on. And, these we see are to the most vulnerable of our communities. And, I just want to know whether provinces have been directed to reprioritize their own budgets to fill in these particular gaps. And then with regard to oversight and monitoring with provincial education departments, and I think this is something that the Portfolio Committee has been questioning a lot in the past, and it has been problematic because while the Department of Basic Education is responsible for policy development and national coordination, the implementation of key programs, for example, the learner transport, the LTSM.
Recording in progress.
the infrastructure delivery. This all rests with provincial education departments. Now, these are areas where delivery failures, and we've seen it historically, have undermined learner outcomes, especially in rural and under-resourced provinces. Now, in the revised APP on slide 13, the department notes there that there is a shift towards clustering delivery areas to reflect strategic outcomes, and also mentions that the new outcome-based structure is meant to improve oversight and collaboration across the system. Now, additionally, the APP also outlines the use of quarterly sector reports. And they've also mentioned a monitoring through education management information systems, that is the EMA system. And then also the engagements with, of course, HEDCOM and CEM. Now, given all these intentions and specifically how the DBA will strengthen enforcement and accountability mechanisms across provincial education departments, how will a DBE ensure that LTSM is delivered on time and in full, particularly the provision of grades R to 9 workbooks? And how will they prioritize infrastructure projects? And further to that, Chair, how will DBE consider implementing a performance-based compliance mechanism or conditional funding linked to delivery KPIs to ensure that provincial education departments are not only monitored, but that they are held accountable for failing to meet their APP-aligned targets? And I think that's a very important question because we've historically had problems with PEDs not meeting their APP-aligned targets. Then the last question with regard to the APP and budget is got to do with the implementation of the mother tongue-based bilingual education. Now, the department's 2025-2030 strategic plan, as well as the executive authority statement in both the strategic plan and the revised APP, now they both emphasize the importance of mother tongue-based bilingual education, which is absolutely great. We really want to see that, and particularly in the foundation phase, which is extremely important. Now, as a key enabler, I think this also will see to improved literacy and numeracy outcomes, which is really what we are working towards. Now, in the executive statement, page 9 of the revised APP, it states that all learners will receive their mother tongue-based home language and mathematics workbooks, and that the system will shift to strengthen early learning as a foundational priority. Now, Chair, despite this commitment in the revised APP, in section C, there's no standalone indicator or target or a dedicated budget line item for the rollout of this mother tongue-based home language and mathematics workbooks, nor does it in fact reflect how provinces will implement it or how they will be monitored. Also, the medium-term expenditure framework doesn't show earmarked growth in funding aligned to language policy shifts. There's no training of bilingual teachers, and there's no procurement of bilingual LTSM. Now, my question is, will there be provincial pilot schools? Are there revised LTSM procurement plans? Are there bilingual teacher deployment strategies? That's firstly. And then I think more importantly, why has the department not created a dedicated performance indicator or a conditional funding stream for the strategic priority? I might have missed it, but I didn't see anything in that regard. Chair, and then with regards to the anti-bullying, now, I think we've all mentioned that in the recent months, we've really seen quite a few disturbing videos. It's viral on social media and on other platforms, including media outlets. There have been violent fights, group assaults even, and even weapon-related incidences across provinces. Learners, I think, are traumatized, as well as teachers and other people at schools. And the DBE does highlight cyberbullying and digital safety education in its presentations. I mean, I've seen there that there's an online safety program. There's partnerships with UNICEF, for example, Google, the Film and Publication Board, etc. There's also the bullying prevention manual. But Chair, there is no specific mention of how the DBE is responding to the recording and online sharing of violent acts, nor are there mechanisms to hold learners or schools accountable for such content. And I think it's important that we have a look at this and see how we hold schools and learners accountable for the content that is out there. And the visibility of such violence online, I think, suggests a deep gap between policy and learner behavior. My question to the department in this regard is, how is the department addressing the alarming trend of school violence being filmed and circulated on social media, and what concrete steps are being taken to hold both learners and schools accountable in cases where such content goes viral and exposes a failure of supervision, discipline, and safety protocols? And just my very last question is on the gaps in psychosocial support at schools. Now, the DBE has also reported that more than 1 in 3 learners in South Africa have experienced bullying, and that there is a rising incidence of cyberbullying and online harassment, and that despite existing protocols and awareness campaigns, that many schools, especially in under-resourced areas, lack the psychosocial support. Sometimes staff or personnel are able to respond meaningfully, but in other cases, not so much. And with learners suffering long-term mental health consequences, for example, anxiety and suicidal tendencies, I think the problem is both urgent and systemic. Now, the question here is, given the severe psychosocial and academic impact of bullying and the online violence we are currently seeing in learners, what measurable progress has been made in deploying trained social workers, psychologists, or even counselors in schools? And how does the DBE intend to close the gap in provinces where learners remain unsupported despite escalating incidences? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mgadi. Honorable Mgadi, over to you. Okay. Honorable Ngabo.
Thank you very much, Chair. I hope you are able to hear me. My network is very unstable. Chairperson, just have about 3 questions to ask. One, thanks to the presentations, Honorable Chairperson. If one looks at the number of these assistant teachers, which is where I wish to begin, about 200 of them, there is a question that I wish to pose around that. It's the qualifications. That the schools are made to focus to. Why is it that they are not allowed to take those that are fully qualified? Because we have got quite a lot of them, and when they go and try to access this opportunity, they are told that it's not for them. I mean, what is the issue here? Not to make sure that we benefit the learners. Is it about the learners or about making the opportunities available for those who want to work? that was just the first one. And the second one is about the reducing the targets. I'm worried about the impact. If maybe one can get a picture of, I don't know whether the department would be able to give a clear response as to what impact or how much the impact is going to be. For an example, reducing the targets from 45 to 27. I'm sorry that I did not mention the slides, but I don't think the slides were numbered. And then coming to bullying, which I think is estimated at, if one looked at the graph, at somewhere between 4.5% or so. One is looking at the movies as one of the means to try and have this under control. How are these movies going to be? Are these movies going to be distributed evenly to make sure that they reach everywhere and every learner? And maybe tied to that, what age group is there? Is there an age group that is not going to be having an opportunity to access these movies? Are they free? Is it a free for all? In terms of them assessing the actual video content. Thank you, Chairperson. Just those three easy ones.
Thank you, Honorable Ngadi.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Greeting all honorable members of the Portfolio Committee and greeting all protocol observed. Thanks for the presentation. My question, according to the General Household Survey, over 40% of learners experience violence in 2022, despite the ongoing implementation of the National School Safety Frame and related protocols. Chairperson, what specific intervention has the department introduced to address these higher rates? And what measurable improvements can be shown since these programs began? My second question, the report states that 327,297 officials have completed the SACE accredited digital training on the National School Safety Framework. How is the department monitoring whether this training has translated to a measurable reduction in bullying incidents across schools? And can you provide district-level data showing any such trend? Under Department of Basic Education presentation, according to the presentation, 6,470 learners with special needs wrote the 2024 NSC exam, and only 647, which means it's 10% qualified for higher certificate studies. What targeted intervention are in place to improve post-matric opportunities for learners with special educational needs? And how will the department ensure these learners are not left behind in line with the NDP 2030 exclusive vision. The 2025 to 2026 APP shows reduced performance targets due to the budget constraints. While over 13.4 million learners and nearly 25,000 schools remains dependent on the Department of Basic Education Service. Chairperson, what specific areas of the education system are most affected by this budget reduction? And how will the department mitigate negative impact on learners' outcomes in underperforming districts? Another thing, Chairperson, I want to know, or I need a clarity, ku Department of Education, while kunothisha till today abakhokheliwe ama-salary abo, even though bekuma-contract siyakwazi lokho, but udepartment uthuli awusho lutho, akukho ngisho islot okanye into abayikhulumayo nje ngothisha base-KZN abaka grade R. Othisha base-KZN since March abaholanga, April abaholanga, uMay abaholile, sikuJune manje abaholile, kodwa benza nje bayahamba bafundisa. Namanje ngikhulumile lento na last meeting ukuthi nihleli ukwenza njani department, ake nilungise lento yaka grade R, abaholile abantwana, khona omama bemizi laphayana, khona abantwana abasafunda futhi anibakhokhelile. Iyiphi plan yenu? Kuyavela la ukuthi ibudget yaka 2025 is 200,000 ama-opportunity afanele aqhamuke emsebenzi.
Honorable Ngadi. I think we could have lost Honorable Mgadi. The interpreter was trying to get in. Okay, Honorable Mgadi, I think we have lost there. Honorable Shugwamani.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me take this opportunity and greet Chairperson.
Honorable Ngadi, can you mute, please? Thank you. Sorry, Honorable Shugamani.
Oh, thank you, Chairperson. But can you just deal with this issue, Chairperson, and come back to me because I can't continue.
Honorable Ngadi, can we agree that you mute because your network is bad? Please. Thank you. Honorable Shugaman, over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me take this opportunity and greet everyone who's in attendance here in today's meeting. Chairperson, I believe that by virtue of being an acting chair of today's meeting, you assume the responsibilities of the chair of the sitting, and you may also be able to provide us with some clarity where we are seeking clarity. Chairperson, I'm speaking this because I want to raise this issue. You will remember, Chairperson, that in one of our meetings here, I have raised the issue of the portfolio committee working together with a portfolio of police, health, and women, youth, and persons with disabilities must deliberately take an oversight visit to Eastern Cape in Bergview College with regard to the case of the child called Kwekwe, the rape case that was actually all over the news that has shocked the country. The meeting resolved that indeed we should conduct that oversight meeting. The chairperson, in her closure of the meeting in that particular day, indicated that she will revert back to us and give us a date as to when are we going to go to that special and specific oversight. She still want to check with the chair of chairs, and after she have actually consulted the chair of chairs, she will come back to us and give us the date. It's been a month and 3 weeks now, and there's no report back from the chairperson. I wanted to check as to when are we going to conduct an oversight visit to Backview College, so that we deal with this issue of Kwekwe, because now the matter has actually literally died, and there are a lot of things that or new developments in that case with that regard. And for this portfolio committee to get all the facts, we need to go to that school and conduct an oversight. That's where we're going to get the fact, and that's where we'll be able to do our work properly and thoroughly, and also make sure that we assist the child and the family with regard to this case. Because right now, everyone is quiet now. The police also, they are quiet now. The health department is quiet now. The basic education is quiet now. The issue of, or the case of the child Kwekwe is dying, literally dying, a natural death, because of some people not willing to follow details on this matter. As the EFF was saying, when are we going to conduct that oversight? Because it's now a month and 3 weeks now after we have agreed as a portfolio committee that we will go and conduct that oversight. Again, Chair, I just hope that the minister is back in this meeting, since she has indicated that she's going to open a meeting somewhere and she'll rejoin the meeting. My understanding is that the opening is concluded now, and she's with us in this meeting, because I need to check something from the chair, from the minister. Minister, we have been waiting, and the waiting now is taking long. And the people of South Africa also, they are actually confused as to what is happening now with regard to the issue of the Bella Act and the regulations that you are actually dealing with as the minister. We, as the EFF, feel like you are deliberately playing a political game on this issue. Delay tactics, and we have been saying this and will continuously saying this, no matter how smart you are going to answer, no matter how beautiful you are going to give us answers, but the fact of the matter is that there's a serious and deliberate delay in dealing with this issue of the regulations and the Bella Act in particular. Because also, even there are concerns that are raised by other stakeholders with regard to the Clause 4 and Clause 5 of the Bella Act. As to, do we have full implementation of Clause 5 and Clause 4 of the Bella Act? You will recall very well that the president at some point had to stop it and to allow some further engagement and negotiations with regard to the two clauses. My question comes to the minister, or it goes to the minister, as to what is the status of the two clauses, which is Clause 4 and Clause 5, that were there in the Bella Act? Are those two clauses now in full implementation? Are they implemented? What is happening? Can we get brief and get to understand what is really happening with those two clauses? And please, Minister, stop playing the delay tactics. We need those regulations. They must come out and they must be published, and we need to know what is really happening. Or if maybe you've got them or you have published them elsewhere, but this committee, I want to understand that we are raising these issues because we do not have them. Can you please furnish us with those regulations or the implementations of the regulations that you have? So, and I'm asking this, that if you've got them on your table, please give us before the end of today, so that we are able to know what is happening with regard to the Bella Act and the regulations implementation per se. So, coming to the issue of today's meeting, Chair, or the acting chair of the city, We are dealing with the annual performance plan of the department now. Let me actually indicate that the total budget allocation for basic education in 2024 was 32.3 billion. And the allocation that was made in March 2025 by the Minister of Finance, it actually decreased to 29.5 billion. And again, on the adjusted budget of the 21 May 2025, the budget allocation also decreased to 19.
Please do not accept rides from unaccredited or
From
unknown
the
transport
29.5
services.
billion,
Further information
which
can be
actually
obtained
account
at the
for
information
10%.
desk.
But Chair, I'm being disrupted here.
On our member, let's mute our phones. I sincerely apologize, and I think let's make sure that we respect the portfolio committee by muting our phones or gadgets, because we are live, where South Africans would want to hear that their issues are addressed. So please, whoever that has entered and interrupted Honorable Sugarman and other members, it's not accepted. My sincere apologies, Honorable Sugarman.
So from 2024 up until to the last budget speech of the Minister of Finance, which in the allocation it actually indicate 19.5 billion from the 29.5 billion. It's actually account for 10% decrease. We are not going to shy away, Chair, that the budget allocation of the department, it has decreased. And if it has decreased, it means that there are certain things that the department will want to achieve and may not be able to achieve those things because it has decreased. I gave you from 2024 up until to date, the budget that we have before us here, it has literally decreased, and it has decreased by 10%. That on its own is a serious crisis, because the department will not be able to perform some of their functions because they don't have enough money as we speak today. And that is the fact. There's no money that which is actually there today as we speak. There are some programs that are going to be hugely affected by this budget cut. And program 4, which is planning, information and assessment. This is funded through the infrastructure backlog and education infrastructure grants. These grants are funded through the planning, information and assessment program, and combined account for 51 billion of the department budget. This amount is not sufficient, and it requires an additional budget. Will you agree with me, Chair, that the budget which we have before us to deal with all the programs that we have under basic education, and I'm deliberately speaking on program 4, to say program 4 is going to be hugely affected. You'll agree with me that you go around the schools in South Africa, the infrastructure of our school is on its bad conditions ever. There's some schools do not have water, some schools do not have proper road, some schools do not have classes, some schools do not have proper electricity running, some schools, there's a serious problem in South Africa. And with these budget cuts which we continuously have in South Africa, it's going to affect the infrastructure of our schools in the department per se. Another program that which I'm also having a serious problem of, it's a program 3 of promote quality teaching and institutional performance through the effective supply, development and use of human resource. Yeah, in the previous budget of 2024-2025, Funza Lushaka was projected to fund 30,000 prospective students, while this year, 2025-2026 budget, only 29,831 students are targeted, which is a reduction of 169 students, which reduces the number of trained teachers in the sector. And on its nature, it is actually discouraging learning and teaching. It also discourages or it does not promote job creation in the sector or in our society as we speak. To promote learning and teaching as well as job creation will require a budget increase on this program. And to move like that to say our budget did not change, our budget did not decrease, our budget is actually in the same allocation that it used to be. We are not being honest to South Africans. And we should actually refrain from these things of always speaking good as if we are not experiencing problems. The Department of Basic Education officials will know that they are sitting where they are now. Their heads, they don't even know if they will wake up tomorrow having their jobs themselves because of the crisis of finances we are having in South Africa. I'm speaking now, Chair. The issue of the budget cuts has already affected the province of KZN. In the province of KZN, one of the speaker here, the honorable member, also touched on the issues of grade R teachers who are not being paid for months now as we speak. Again, Chair, there's a serious issue which is actually looming from KZN. KZN Department of Basic Education is under a serious crisis to an extent that some of the school activities or some of the school functions are not being performed because there's not enough budget in the sector. Exams in KZN are being postponed or they are not writing exams because there's not enough money to print question papers in KZN. That is a crisis on its own. And we are sitting here, we are saying our department is not affected by the budget reduction, is not affected by anything that you may even want to mention from what the minister has presented before us. So we are sitting with a serious crisis as the country. And we want to sit down here and polish everything as if things are moving properly. So I want to understand now, because all these annual performance plans that are here before us, Chair, they've actually drafted them and planned them based on what they have before them. Because you can't plan over something that you do not have. You must plan based on the budget allocated that the budget that we have been allocated for. The budget that the Department of Education is being allocated for is not enough to educate our kids. It's not enough to educate and give our kids better education which they deserve. This budget which we are having before us here and the annual performance plans that we are having before us here is the annual performance plans that will produce less quality education in South Africa. It's annual performance plans that will produce learners that all of us, we always say our learners in school, they can't read for a meaning. Yes, they can't read for a meaning because there's not enough budget given for them that will educate them, that will well equip them, that will give them proper education going forward. So we are sitting with a serious crisis in South Africa. And these annual performance plans that we're having before us, I'm not even impressed about, because you are planning based on what you have, and it will appear as if you are doing something good, and it will appear as if you are solving the problems we are having. But the reality of the matter is that we are underfunded. You don't have enough money. We don't have water in our schools. We don't have electricity in our schools. We don't have toilets in our schools. We don't have proper classrooms in our schools. Learners in classes, they are actually overcrowded. And above that, they don't have enough chairs and tables in the classes. It's a crisis. There's no even a chalkboard. There's no materials that teachers have in their schools to actually perform their functions. So we are sitting here with a serious crisis, and Department of Basic Education is facing serious crisis. In no time, it's going to collapse. We're not going to have Department of Basic Education in the manner in which we are moving. So it must be noted, South Africans must know that the GNU has failed the people of South Africa. They could not even give Department of Basic Education enough budget for it to function effectively. Thank you very much, Chair.
No, thank you. Thank you, Honorable Mangla. Thank you very much. I think quite significant members have raised key issues, and I could have made notes to want to reflect on the presentations we could have received. They are quite critical for the country and the lives of our learners. And I want to say that the 2025-26 APP that are outlined are quite ambitious goals that are aligned to what the MTDP. However, they are
Okay.
Honorable Manga.
Sorry to disturb you. I just want to also make it clear that the minister, can we be provided with the new guidelines for the implementation of the Bella Act before the end of today? Thank you very much, Chair.
Well, thanks very much. As I was saying that, however, there are critical areas that require us to go through scrutiny to ensure that we got effective implementation and accountability for the department, because important issues that were raised by members that are affecting the department is quite concerning. And the APP claims to align with the medium-term strategic framework. Yet we need more clarity on how specific actions will address the learning losses attributed to COVID-19. That remains vague. It's a concern that we must always put into our mind, that COVID could have costed a lot, but even though we've seen how the learners could have performed during that time. And then given the significant disruptions faced by learners, I think it is important that all of these targeted strategies to mitigate these losses that are quite essential, we should aim to include an inclusive growth in equity and education. And it's quite important to articulate how this APP will adapt to emerging challenges in the sector. And key to that, the rationale behind the allocation of funds across programs needs to be transparent so that we are able to monitor and mitigate and see as to where are the funds going and how can we therefore be able to trace them. And while it is also, we must appreciate the department's plans to allocate resources to several critical areas, I think we must assess whether these allocations reflect priorities that will yield measurable improvements in learning and outcomes. That are the concerns that are raised by members where teachers are not paid in KZN. And the provincial government, I think in collaboration with national, they must step in and intervene on such issues, because it's where we must step in and see to it that these allocations are properly allocated and they're responding to the needs of our children. I think I'm a broken record that always speaks about the poor and the marginalized that are left behind when it comes to the allocations of budget. So we need to look onto that. And I think there are concerns regarding the potential budget cuts in areas such as infrastructure. Infrastructure remains our concern. And then would adversely affect it will adversely affect service delivery as it is affecting it now, as now we've got concerns on where it's already winter, extremely cold in some areas, and then children do not have access to such. I think it is important that the department must demonstrate its plans to ensure value for money in each program they are going to implement, particularly in the light of the previous fiscal constraints that the department was confronted with. They should be able to tell us we are quite content and ready to present in all of that. And quite significantly, the addressing infrastructure backlogs, especially concerning sanitation and safe school structures, it's non-negotiable. We can't be speaking about this. It should be our priority now as a department. It should be part of how we want to change the environment and incorporate the relation that Honorable Manga was speaking about, where we need closely to work with SAPS, youth, women, social development, to go back to the primitive years, where at the primitive years, where we used to see a great collaboration that is reflective to the issues that says the learners would have regular programs that are closely integrated or amalgamated with Department of Social Development, Department of Health, Department of the Police, which will therefore integrate and interrelate with and interconnect with issues, and then we're able to trace these problems. And I want to raise my concern. The lack of safe learning environment directly impacts the student's psychological well-being and academic performance. We should look onto that as we're dealing with this. When we put our measures, we put them in that particular way. And lastly, on the APPs, because I think we would have engaged it previously, and coincidentally I was the acting chair. So again, today I'm the acting chair. The department needs to articulate its plans for improving access to quality ECD services in the 2025-26 financial year. And how will it support and train ECD practitioners to ensure effective service delivery? They should re-emphasize, prioritize, and put those issues. And I want to pose this question under this. What steps will the department take to improve access to quality ECD services? and how will ECD practitioners be supported in their roles? It is quite significant because we're getting to Bela to be able to see how it's implemented. I want to agree and join Chu on the implementation of Basic Education Laws Amendment Act. I think it has sparked a lot of debates and concerns regarding the delay execution that we are confronted with, particularly concerning Section 4 and 5. And I'm focusing on these two admissions and language policies in South African schools because I came across a letter that was written to MECs. And as we consider these critical issues around Mbela, I think the several issues that we need to highlight as a matter of urgency to clarify its accountability for active engagement from the Department of Education and the minister. We are quite content as to what is the powers of the minister in incorporating on part of the regulations as it was given to us when we had the last meeting as a portfolio committee. And first and foremost, I think that there's a pressing need for the Minister of Basic Education to provide a clear legal grounds for the ongoing delays in the proclaiming section of 4 and 5 of the Bela Act, despite the act being signed into law long ago, September 2024. The act was signed long ago, and the absence of the proclamations could have raised serious concerns about the constitutional validity of these delays. I'm concerned as I'm standing here, because without any clarity, without any doubt, it deals with the integrity of the legislative process that linger and undermine the public concerns. The act took a thorough democratic process and a stance where consultation was done thoroughly, where oral replies were made, where stakeholders were engaged in particular. What was said to have we said to the president last portfolio committee, we were very clear as to what are we expecting from the minister as to what should happen. I do not know what is the delay all about. I do not know what is pursuing the delay on transformation. I do not know what conscious or unconsciousness is taking place in the element of Bela, because I'm quite concerned. There's a monkey trick game that is being played of a political scoring opportunities to want to divert the majority views into the minority views at the expense of transformative measures that must take place of our children. So I am going to give the department these particular questions, and I'm expecting within 7 days a response from the department so that we can take charge, because we are not going to sit here and allow delays where we're very clear. Because we are amending South African Schools Act, it is quite significant and important to take charge that regulations will be a guide to be implemented. We're giving even the department 3 months to do so. In light of the act being signed since 2024, can the department provide a detailed legal framework that justifies the ongoing delay in proclaiming the contiguous sections? And then what specific legal advice has the guided these decisions from the department? I want to get that so that we are able to understand where are we, what is dealing with our transformative issues that are affecting our learners at the expense of minority where majority are affected. Considering the urgent need for equitable access in education, what specific actions are being taken to expedite the proclamation of Section 4 and 5? Can there be a clear time frame? Because we gave you 3 months to deal with such. And then how does the department plan to align its current delays with the Act's mandate to promote non-discrimination in admissions? So we do not engage, or we found wanting to be engaging each other, whereby we are going to change the regulations and the Act and wanting to say, now we are going to have to balance this. What measures are in place to ensure that all provinces are ready to implement these changes effectively? And I want to know what is the advice that the department received, DG, from the state law advisor about the guidelines that are on that are being spoken about that we are not quite content about. It's quite important we are told about it, we are given into it in writing within 7 days, so that we are able to know what has informed the delay. And I want to echo the same sentiments to say what becomes the status quo of the regulatory process of March. How far you were the regulations? And then how far is I expect the DG's office, because you are heading the headcom, you are expected to have submitted a report to the minister, or expected to have created a report that gives effect and clarity as to how far you with regulations, not us having to receive or send letters that seeks to delay transformation, that seeks to take us back when the country is impatient with us, where the country is expecting us to move outrightly out of all the delays that are the barriers of poverty, the barriers of systematical exclusion and isolations that are affecting the motive forces who are our learners. So I prefer that we get the response when writing, so that we're able to deal with the issues and delay and the sabotage that we are seeing. Because, I mean, in giving an analytical assessment, or giving the response that we receive from the minister, there are responses that are trying to delay and try to micromanage the committee. And I said it last time, the committee remains the critical stakeholder that should always still guide and preside as it's doing its oversight work. So I would expect that we get the questions in writing, and we also respond to the members' questions in writing, as I'm going to hand back to the department to give responses, and then we'll respond to the issues immediately after the department, Honorable Chikwamani, on what Good has spoken about from the chair of chairs. And the department, you can start with the response. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you to the members for all their questions. I'm going to deal with, I think, 3 or 4 broad issues before I give over to the department to answer some specific issues. The reason why I want to deal with them in this way is because I think it's important also just in terms of onboarding the portfolio committee on how some of these processes work. So the one is the issue around the targets. Some members have indicated that the reduction of targets is a concern, and also this is now directly linked to budget constraints. So, honourable members, when we go through a planning cycle and a process of planning on what we're going to do, it's absolutely critical that we don't just put in an annual performance plan or even a 5-year plan a wish list of things we wish we could do. It's important that what we are including there are actual action items that we will do, because at the end of the 5-year term, or even at the end of this current financial year, you have every right to demand responses from us on why certain targets were not met. So in crafting an APP, honourable members, you've got to have that in mind, that what are we able to do, what are we not able to do, and therefore what is possible within the current financial envelope for the next 5 years. And that's important. Otherwise, the government's planning process then is futile. Then you are simply writing things, a wish list, not things that are based in reality. So the planning process of an APP and a 5-year strat plan have to be looked at in tandem and in conjunction with the finances. And that's why even when we present to you, we present not only the targets, but we also present the financials that are attached to that, because the financials have to give effect to the actual targets. And so, yes, there may have been consolidation of certain targets, there may have been the reduction of certain targets, but it's also linked to what is possible and what we are able to do in the current context. The second thing, honourable members, I just think it's important to outline here is that it's very important that the department does not also just produce a shopping list of priorities. That if we say to ourselves that there are 5 key priorities for the 7th administration, then we have to also learn to prioritize, declutter, and essentially really try to consolidate and make pointed targets that speak directly to our strategic priorities. Because my worry, honourable members, is that in the reality is that financial constraints are here to stay. They are here to stay with us for a long time. And so we have to learn to do business, and we have to learn to do more with less. And so it doesn't aid us to just simply have a shopping basket or a shopping list of issues that we or targets that we say we want to achieve if they are not strictly aligned to our priorities. And that's why in this revised APP, you would have seen that there's greater alignment with the key priorities of the 7th administration. There's also consolidation of certain targets. And while, yes, the bottom line and the financials have not changed, but it's important that we really streamline our focus. And the reason for that is simple. We want to be able to be impactful in the priorities that we have selected, and we want to be able to see a massive difference in what we have selected. And so really that is the core sort of guiding principle when it comes to putting together APPs and strat plans. They have to be rooted in reality, honorable members. And we have to, at all times, make sure that we're not simply just, putting down a wish list of things. Because when you ask us these questions years from now or at the end of the term, and you ask us, why was this not done? We can't then simply come back to you and say, well, it was due to financial constraints. Because the question you should ask us then is, but you knew about your financial challenges when you put together these APPs. These are targets that you, DBE, have set for yourselves. Why is it that you can't meet the very same targets that you set for yourselves? So it's important that when we are putting together these kind of plans, they're rooted in reality, because, as I say, you would have every right to say, but that's not an excuse, because you set these targets fully aware of your challenges, and yet you came here and you said this is what you would do. So I thought it was important to just outline the guiding principle when it comes to putting together annual performance plans. And yes, of course, this is not just about finances. Of course, we have to push ourselves in terms of delivery at all times, even under tough financial constraints. We have to say to ourselves, these are some of the things that need to be done and done well. So I just thought it's important, Chair, to perhaps outline how that there isn't an arbitrary list that is drawn up. It is really followed by 1, the priorities, 2, the financial reality, 3, the capacity to action them against those targets, and number 4, very much the realization that we will be held accountable against these targets. And then the other issue that I think I want to deal with very quickly is around, because it came up quite strongly with Honorable Shigwambana and you, Honorable Low, and the issue of the Bela Act and the amendments to the South African Schools Act. Again, I think this is also a broader issue that I need to deal with in more substantive terms. Number 1, and I think I have said this in numerous meetings here and in Parliament, honorable members, that there's no delay in the implementation of an act that has already been enacted. In fact, when I was last in Parliament, I was asked this very question, and I indicated that when an act has been signed into law, it comes into effect. There's no delay. So I think perhaps, excuse me. Perhaps I need to maybe clarify Honorable Shigwambana on this particular issue. He raises the matter around sections 4 and 5 having been delayed in its implementation. And I think he then makes the assumption that somehow that has carried on even in 2025. I just want to cast the memories of members back to last year. Honorable Low is absolutely right. The law was signed in September of 2024. The president then gave the country 3 months to deliberate on those particular sections 4 and 5. That 3 months came and lapsed, and then he enacted the entire piece of legislation into law. Those sections 4 and 5 then came into law last year already. So there is no implementation or delay in implementation in the act in itself or the specific amendments, and there's no delay in implementation of specific sections 4 and 5. They are in its entirety law, and they remain law as we speak. Then the other issue I think that has been brought up quite pointedly is the issue of regulations. And I think, again, perhaps I need to clarify here with the members, because Honorable Lowe makes the assertion that he gave the department, or the members gave the department 3 months to come up with regulations. Now, honorable members, I must also indicate to you that the drafting of regulations is not a simple process. At the end of last year, you will recall that we made a commitment on a number of things. Number one, we said that there would be guidelines that would be in place while regulations are being drafted. Number two, regulations will be drafted and publicized for public comment by the end of June. Now, honorable members, the date as we stand here is the 17th of June. We're about 2 weeks away from the end of June. So I really do battle to understand the assertion and even the accusation that somehow there has been a delay in, one, the implementation of the Act, because the Act is implemented. Number two, in the production of the regulations, because we made a commitment last year already to say by the end of June, the regulations will be out and will be published for public comment. We are not at the end of June. And I hasten to add that the drafting of regulations is an intricate process. It's not something that is done by the minister. It's done by the legal teams within the department in conjunction with the Office of the State's Chief State Law Advisor. That is a legal process that we must allow to take its course. But the regulations themselves don't delay the implementation of the Act. The Act is implemented, it is in force, it is implementable. The regulations only seek to give clarity on certain parts of the Act and how they should be implemented. The regulations, if I may perhaps make this example, are an aiding tool, an implementing tool, but the Act in itself is law and it's there. And so I think there has to be somehow an acceptance that no one is playing games here, honorable members, but the reality is that the end of June is coming. The regulations will be published. You and other members of the public will be able to make comments. And I'll keep answering the question. And I take no exception. I mean, even when I'm accused of certain things, I will keep answering the question as I am, because it's important. And it's important that members of parliament also ask these questions. So I will certainly keep answering the question. But I think I've clarified that there's no delay in the implementation of sections 4 and 5, that there has been no delay in the drafting of the regulations, that we committed that we would do so by the end of June. We are now sitting at the 17th of June, and those regulations will be published for public comment by the end of June. There's been absolutely no delay with any of these processes. Then the other issue that I want to speak to, and honorable members that have raised, is the issue of, I think, the finances of the provinces. Honorable members, I completely share your concern around provinces, in particular KwaZulu-Natal, and its ability to meet its financial obligations. I think it's a little unfair to somehow perhaps project that the financial issues that are facing the provinces are an invention of the now. The reality, members, and I've said this before, that the last decade there has been an underinvestment in education, and at some point this was always going to come back to us, and now it has, where provinces are really struggling to make ends meet, and they're unable to meet their financial obligations. I've been very encouraged by the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, who has come out and met with various stakeholders and indicated that the province will be making a financial commitment, I think of a couple of 100 millions towards education in particular, so that to resolve the issue. And so I think this will go a long way to buffer the province in particular on some of the issues that they're facing, issues around the non-payment of grade R teachers. As I indicated the honorable member before when I was here, that this is something that I've raised with the MEC. I think this kind of financial investment that is going to be made is going to really help the province to pull itself out of the financial hole that they find themselves in. But also just to also indicate that that the issue is not limited to KwaZulu-Natal. And so as a result, when I met with the Council of Education Ministers a couple of weeks ago, I indicated to them that I would like every single province to come up with a financial recovery plan. But linked to that is also a service delivery recovery plan. So where there has been issues around finances and where there's been issues around not being able to fulfill financial obligations, essentially things like scholar transport, things like norms and standards, which have been a sticking point in many provinces. I have asked the provinces to consolidate a report per province on how are they going to mitigate that, how are they going to rectify that, because ultimately we have to look after the actual service in itself. So yes, the issue is quite acute in KZN. I'm pleased by the intervention of the province, by the Premier, but the issue is also not limited to just KZN. And I'm assuring members now that my team and I, the DG, the CFO, in conjunction with National Treasury, we are actively trying to make sure that provinces are resolving their financial problems. I know that this is difficult. This is difficult for provinces themselves. It's difficult for many of us, but we have to somehow make sure that they are really bailed out, and that they also adopt healthy financial habits, honorable members, where provinces need to then also be responsible with how they handle public money. Then the last point that I think I want to touch on before then the department comes into other specific issues is around the ECD rollout. And honorable members, you will recall that at the beginning of this year, we held what we called the Manapele Summit, which the president came to address us on, and there we adopted a roadmap. The roadmap which says what are we going to do between now and 2030 in the realization of access to universal ECD or early child development for every child between the ages of 0 to 4. I want to guarantee you, honorable members, that this is a massive priority for the 7th administration, really. And it's a massive priority for me in the department in this term. So there are key things that we've set ourselves out to do. We already have a curriculum in place, which we are wanting to roll out to as many ECD centers as possible. However, we want to firstly meet our annual target of registering 10,000 ECD centers. We don't just only want to register these ECD centers, honorable members, we want them to comply and be of gold status. What is gold status? There's a strata which we are implementing that says bronze, silver, or gold. And with every registered ECD, we will either put you either on a bronze or silver or gold. Ultimately, we want as many ECD centers to be at a gold standard. Why? Because once an ECD center is at a gold standard, it is eligible for a government subsidy. So the allocation of 24 Rand a day per child will then be able to be unlocked by that ECD center. But then we're also able to come in and improve infrastructure there. We're also able to make sure that the practitioners are trained. We are then also able to make sure that there are meals that come in there every single day. We are then able to make sure that there's a curriculum that is rolled out there. And so that is the steps. The steps is registration, compliance, and then rolling out these key indicators of success. And so I want to assure you that I'm very pleased with the pace with which the team is moving. The plan towards the end of the year is very clear. The provinces are also on board. We are on them and saying to them, we must register as many ECD centers as possible. And I can guarantee you, we are doing very well in the sector in this particular program in the department. And we've got a very, very strong team that is leading that. So, Chair, I think I've answered some broad fundamental questions here. Dr. Whittle, I don't know if he's on, or Mr. Padiachi, I don't know if any of you are going to come into other specifics.
No, thank you very much, Minister. I think you've dealt very adequately with many of the issues. I'm going to invite Mr. Padeachi, perhaps if you have anything to add. I think Minister has dealt with the issue of the budget, the targets, the ECD ones. So I think those ones have been covered adequately. But in case there is anything else, Mr. Padeachi.
Well, thank you, Dr. Whittle. I think the one question from the honorable member was, I think, related to the Basic Education Employment Initiative regarding qualified people being recruited. So just to indicate that we are in the 5th phase of the program, and the program has been designed to look at youth that are not in education, not in employment, and not in training. However, in the 5th phase, there has been a change in that. That means qualified youth can be included depending on what the qualification they offer as well. But it's not about being qualified only. It's youth between the ages of 18 and 34, turning 35 in the current year. So what you have is we do have qualified educators who are not employed. Many do find place in the program itself. There is an exception in allowing those youth that have taken up a qualification or trying to complete a qualification in becoming a teacher. In that, one of the things was to avoid double dipping, but this is to allow them, while they are trying to complete their education degree, that the interest in schooling and being in schools around learners as well, we continue to give them exposure in that regard. So I think also what we have faced as well, we only have 204,000 opportunities. We had over 1.9 million unique applications. That's 1.9 million youth. And there are also other criteria around being within 5 kilometers of the radius of the school as well. That's to ensure that the youth do not spend their 4,000 rand in paying for transport as well. So this information, we will be coming back to the committee. I think as alluded earlier, we're working with other departments as well on this. So we will share further information as we have commenced only at the beginning of June on the 2nd. So we're in the 2nd week, and we'll provide the committee with more progress in that regard in future meetings. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Padeachi. Minister, I think what remains are all the questions related to the bullying presentation that I will try and deal with very, very briefly. So, Honorable Gaza.
Over to you, sir.
Thanks, Minister. Honorable Gaza is indicating that the enforcement of accountability remains inconsistent when it comes to bullying. And that's true. And that is part of what our advocacy program is about, to ensure that schools understand that bullying is a serious issue that needs to be dealt with when it is reported. You know, often when boys bully, you hear from school principals, boys will be boys. And so that's the mentality, I think, that we all confront. Bullying is not a social issue that is limited to schools. You find it in communities, in families, on the sports field. And so it is something that, like the presentation says towards the end, that we need to confront jointly. The issue is that because we've been focusing on it for the last probably more than 20 years, we have been able to reduce the number of incidents. Now, Honorable Christians raises the issue of cell phones and social media, and I think that's an important issue. Very recently, Honorable Christians, UNICEF has released a policy guidance to states where they're encouraging states to ban cell phones in schools. It's not something that we're looking at the moment, but I was suggesting to one of my colleagues that perhaps it's a discussion that we should be starting with schools and parents, perhaps about how we deal with the issue of the availability of cell phones in schools. that then enables learners to share these images, quite widely. We do quite a lot of training for educators. The minister last week, launched a series of life orientation, life skills workbooks where we've built bullying prevention into the curriculum. That series of textbooks we'll follow up with training for teachers across the country to specifically be able to deal with bullying. Honorable Kaba is correct. We don't have a policy that deals with bullying prevention. We do, however, have guidelines for schools. And so those guidelines have been in operation for a long time. They deal with xenophobic bullying, homophobic bullying, cyberbullying. And we continue to implement those guidelines. We of course, as the nature of bullying shifts, like for example with cyberbullying, we then have to adjust the guidelines, which we do, and we make a series of manuals available to schools to help them to deal with that. We have a specific a cyberbullying prevention program that we're rolling out across the provinces, and Minister has referred to that in her opening remarks as well. Then, Chair, I just wanted to say I wanted to check if Dr. Mbudi Mahana is perhaps in the meeting, because I know that is it Honorable Mobo or no, it's Honorable Christians who's asked about MTBBE, and perhaps, Chair, on that one, if we could respond in writing. I have captured the questions, and so we would be in a position to respond to all of those in writing. Thank you, Chairperson. I think that is our responses. Thanks, Minister.
Thank
you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Minister, for those responses. And thank you for taking over for me. I had to finalize some registrations with encouraging us to improve our capacity. So apologies for that, but I really appreciate the stepping in of the acting chair. I think to the department as a way of maybe closing the engagements, I think let's start with the first one, Minister, that the anxiety we have as members as it concerns or as it relates to the Bella Act, and how the department consistently says that it is implementable, it's that the Act and the specific clauses that we are alluding to were meant to address a certain societal challenge. And that challenge was sometimes where schools create a barrier to access for the schools utilizing admission and language policies. And the interventions by the Act is that those powers by as draft those policies are going to now be checked by HODs of departments. Now, where we stand as members, and of course, speaking on behalf of many parents who are waiting to see the Act in action, where we are now, schools have already started with the application process for grade 8s and for grade R and grade 1s. Now, perhaps what we need to hear from yourselves is exactly how many language and admission policies from how many schools have you seen and have you approved? Because that's what the Act says. It says the language policies and the admission policies of the schools will be submitted to the departments, and the departments will check them, and it will certify itself that the language policy is in line with the demographics of that community, but also that language policy does not create a barrier. So maybe you need to tell us that, because our anxiety is on that basis. When Honorable Low and Honorable Shukwambani says the community and South Africans want to see the act in action, they mean exactly that. Where we are seated, perhaps we should, and I think members, we must do that, invite the department to come and tell us about and give us an account of how many language policies from how many schools have they now seen. They've dealt with those language policies, and they can give us a report on that, because the act is implementable and the regulations, according to yourselves, do not necessarily stop the act from being implemented. That is at the center of what the act and those provisions were trying to achieve. Now we want to get a sense that indeed we are achieving that, because we know that in the next coming months, towards January, many parents are going to be writing us a lot of letters about the issue of access to certain schools and the issue of language as a barrier. We visited Gauteng and we raised this thing sharply in this meeting, that we were shocked that there are schools where their language policy instructs that English is a medium of instruction. And when you look at the language policy, that is the only language that is offered, with no vernacular language that is offered in a township, in a community where there's about 3 African languages that are spoken by the community. And we are told it is the choice of the SGB and there's nothing we can do. Now, we want to see if indeed there is something that is being done. I think that is something that is the next it's the next action that we will take. We are going to request the department to demonstrate to us on how implementing the act. With, of course, all the responses and the very important issue, I think, Minister, you started with, of the disasters in the Eastern Cape, quite honestly, and that is correct, that it is quite a sad situation, and we might want to get a full report on the schools, the number of schools that are affected by these disasters, the interventions that have been employed by the department to ensure that learners who have missed exams, because we are aware that learners are busy with June examinations, learners who have missed exams because of these disasters, how are they going to be assisted to catch up? And we also would want to hear from the department on a discussion that we've had before on disaster funds for schools and also on the protocols for schools in times of disasters. And this question is prompted by the fact that we don't know the details of that happened, the incident that happened in the Eastern Cape, where it was, actually fell victim to the floods, and as a result, there were children missing, some were found. We don't know what the details might be or what the details are, but we want to know, and we want to have a discussion with yourself as department on what are the protocols for schools in terms of disasters. What happens when there is floods or when there is an alert, because there was an alert about the weather conditions that we will be facing. What becomes the protocol? So what happens when the floods intensify or the rains intensify and learners are in school or are in class at the time? what are the protocols in place that the school then activates? I mean, do they just allow learners to leave the school, go into the transport, even when the weather conditions are so bad? So we might need to have that conversation with yourselves when you do bring in a report the thing. It is so traumatic, and of course we really are sending out our condolences to the parents and the people of the Eastern Cape Committee of what are our protocols as the department. Are we prepared for these disasters? Do we have in writing the standard operating procedures that guides the schools, that guides the principal when there is an alert or when the disasters strike? Because seemingly these are conditions that unfortunately and they are very traumatic, we might be facing for some time to come, because this is not the first time they've happened this year. The other issue, I think, when you go to, and there was some responses, of course, on the targets and the budget of the department, that it is guided by what is in the coffers. So what is in the coffers guides on how we can stretch ourselves. But there's certain things that, Minister, as you allude, that you prioritize as the department. You outline what your priorities are, and you then work on those priorities, on your targets, on in terms of the coffers. How much can we do on this
Recording
priority?
stopped.
And I think we understand.
Recording in progress.
We fully understand that. I think what for us is a concern is the priorities that you say is your priorities. Are they really your priorities in terms of the targets that we're seeing? Where in other areas we think that your targets are very low, and we don't understand. We are unable to really justify why the targets will be that low, even if there is issues of budget constraints. We really don't understand. For example, I want to speak to what Honorable Christians raised earlier on the issue of the mother tongue bilingual-based education, and where your target really on the LTSM that is going to be developed for grade 3, 6, and 9, and you are saying your target is 500 and something, I think. And one wants to understand, what exactly do you mean? Are you going to develop only 567 materials? In which languages? What does that number represent? What exactly are you saying, so that we understand as well as a portfolio committee what you are trying to say or what you're trying to achieve? And also you speak about a number of question papers, and we want to understand, because the issue of the promotion of mother tongue bilingual-based education in classrooms, it's part of your key priorities. So we want to know this number of question papers that you're going to be printing for the grade 9s and the grade 12s. Exactly which languages you're going to print them in, which languages. You know, when we used to write examinations, you'll receive a question paper that is written, that is printed in both English and Afrikaans. So we want to know, in this instance, what are the languages that you use when you print the question papers? Because then it adds into us really seeing that priority in action. It adds in us believing that indeed the department has declared this key intervention as their priority. In terms of also on program 1, you speak about advisory reports and the budget. So we want to know, these are 2 advisory reports, which are your annual targets. What is the value of these advisory reports, and which areas are you looking at? And what is the budget that you allocate for these two advisory reports? Do you get value for money? Have you utilized any of these reports before to enact change or to bring change, or have you realized that changed? Have they been impactful in the sector, in shaping the work of the sector? In program 2, the second chance target, which is 100,000. So you might need to tell us how many learners are currently enrolled in the second chance matric program currently. But also, when you speak about the ECD and how it is your priority as this department, you'd have to speak to us about this Children Amendment Act. The Children Amendment Act, as we have engaged on it in the last meeting, your target is that you are going to spend the whole year drafting the act. And we want to know, how do you link that to the ECD strategic plans that you have? Now, issue of bullying, I hear your responses, but one also wants to know, if you're speaking about availability of cell phones in schools,
Honorable Low, I'm not sure if it's only me, but I think we may have lost Honorable Maimela. I can't.
We have lost her.
I'm back. Sorry, apologies. I was dealing with and on that. Make us going to, because you're speaking about drafting of the act. And there's many things in that act that speak to how you're going to improve and how you're going to realize the strategic plan or this vision 2030 or that time frame or that roadmap that you've spoken about. For example, if you speak about the infrastructure and the maintenance of the ECD centers, that act, in terms of what we were given as a presentation, says it is a responsibility of local government. And many other things, clarifying roles of what the other departments do in terms of, so you are speaking about their aspect that is done by the department. But remember, that function really relies on many other departments. So we want to know, why do you want to spend the whole year drafting the Children's Amendment Act? Because you are amending certain section and there was work that has already been done. Why does it take you the whole year to just draft it? Perhaps break it down, because it's vague if you're just saying your target is to just draft. And I don't think we can take a whole year drafting amendments, just drafting of amendments. There ought to be, we're drafting in this number of months, but we are doing this in this number of months, we're doing that in this number of months. So we need to get that clarity perhaps from yourself. And lastly, I was speaking on the issue of bullying, on the effectiveness of these mechanisms that are in place. And I think that will actually assist if you as you said, Dr. Whittle, that you also respond in writing. Do respond in writing, because this is one matter that we believe perhaps working with the Department of Arts and Culture, the department might need to go seriously, do a serious work in dealing and in running a very intense campaign on the anti-bullying. You know, very important. It is very important because it is really having serious dire consequences. With learners who we had one learner who committed suicide in Limpopo last year, I think, if I'm not mistaken, after they were bullied and that bullying incident went viral. And there's a young person who lost their life because of this incident. So we can't afford to have such an incident again. We need to really be convinced as a committee that you are very intense in terms of your campaign, and you are working with various stakeholders in other departments. And of course, I agree with Dr. Christians that the code of conduct, what is your approach? I think the approach of the department should be no tolerance to bullying. We should be very clear, and this is an engagement we must have with parents, that we are not going to tolerate bullying, because there are no kids that are going to be afraid to go to school because they're bullied by other children. We've got a responsibility to protect every other child, not to be violated or assaulted in schools. So the code of conduct, the disciplinary processes, where we are seated, we don't even get a sense that the schools are trained or have the capacity to deal with the disciplinary processes in such incidences. It's teachers will tell our responsibility is to teach. And when those instances happens, the reports you get and how the schools deal with those incidences are very different. So it's as if there is no uniform approach towards how to deal with these incidences. So for me, that will be very important. The issue of availability of cell phones is a two-way thing, Dr. Wedlow. That, well, it is bad that they are sharing this material on social media, and as such, the victim is actually victimized again. But on the other hand, if we did not have such, we would not even know about these incidences, because majority of these incidences, we are picking them up on social media, and then we start asking questions. And parents cry to you to say, this has happened to my child and nothing has been done. And my child still fears going to school because the perpetrator or the bully is still at the same school. So it is I know it's an emotive subject because we're parents, and you can just put yourself in the shoes of a parent whose child has been bullied, and that is all over. It's depressing to think about it. Even yourself as a parent, is depressing to yourself. So you might need to really show us that you are running a very intensive on it, so that with the number, and that they've been increasing. I don't know, in many cases that go and because even if they report the learners believe or come born to schools as the cases, it's the same, The very last is to respond to Honorable Shkwambana. I think I would want to respond when we deal with our minutes, because it's a matter that has to do with the responses of the House Chair and what we are trying to do to try and make that oversight visit possible, based on how they have been engaging with the Office of the House Chair, to try and see how do we fit that oversight visit. But I will give that response comprehensively in communion. I'm going to the minister's hand. Is the
Thank you, Chairperson. You're breaking up quite badly. I don't know if you were inviting me to come in.
Respond to the question he raised. Yes, I was inviting you to come.
Okay, thank you very much.
Inviting you to come in.
Thank you. So there were a number of issues. Some were very specific about particular targets. And then the others were quite broad. So I'm going to deal with four broader issues. The one is with regards to the reduction in targets. As I said, I think, Chair, to explain that it wasn't just about culling of targets from the APP, but looking at how best do we still respond to the needs of the sector. But also while being very realistic about what we can and cannot do. So I can assure members that there wasn't an arbitrary sort of slashing of targets. but there has been an effort to consolidate those targets in a way that is sustainable, but also in a way that we can show that we are moving towards what we want to achieve. So I just think that on the targets, but perhaps if there are specific questions Dr. Whittle would like to speak to, he can. And then with regards to the language policy, I completely understand your view and as you say, your anxiety, Chairperson, around exclusionary language and admission policies that may be used by schools. But two things that I want to come in on there. The number one is the Act makes it quite clear that the SGB, yes, may set the policy, but it has to be in the event that there is a dispute. The HOD of the province would need to then be the final arbiter. And so that's the big change that the Act presents. It brings in the HOD as the final decision maker of a language or an admission policy. And so to my knowledge, and again, this is not something that will be dealt with by DBE, this will be dealt with by the provinces. In my knowledge, I'm only aware of one school that has requested the department. I think it may be a school in the Free State. I stand corrected, but I think we can present to you a report from the provinces. From my knowledge, there's only one school that was a single medium Afrikaans school that has requested for that the SGB has itself requested to make it a dual medium school. So that is my understanding, that there's currently in the current academic year, that is the issue that we are dealing with, or at least the Free State government is dealing with. That's the one issue. Then I also want to say, remember, the departments, the provincial departments are not necessarily going to go around simply changing language policies or admission policies. They get involved when there's a dispute. So as you indicate, if there is a dispute where a child is said to being excluded on the basis of language or whatever the cases may be, then the final arbiter in that dispute becomes the HOD of the province. So they wouldn't necessarily be a process that has now, because the Bella Act has become law since the beginning of the year, where the provinces are going around changing language policies in schools. But where there is a dispute, the province's HOD then has to make the final decision, looking at the demographics of the community, looking at the school, looking at the capacity of the school, all of the things which the Act says. So yes, of course, we can request and ask the provinces to let us know if they've been dealing with any other issues that we may not know of. But as far as I know, there hasn't been a dispute that has been declared as of yet. And so, but this is what the provisions of the Act seeks to do. They seek to guide the school, they seek to guide the province on how to deal with a specific dispute like that. So as I say, if there are issues where there has been a dispute, we are more than happy to come and present to you. We can request that information from provinces, but that's the nature in which the Act has been drafted. I also just want to also add that this is not something that the DBE would be involved with. The issue around this dispute resolution would be something that would be dealt with by the specific schools, SGB, and also the provincial department, and the HOD being the final arbiter. So that's just on that. And as I say, I understand the
Minister, maybe let's get that point before you just close. Sorry to interrupt you. The Act does not say what you're saying. It doesn't say that the HOD gets involved when there's a dispute. I think we ought to read the Act, and maybe you can assist us to read that section. It doesn't say that. It doesn't.
So
I just wanted us to clarify that. My question is that the role that is described in the Act does not arise when there's a dispute. It's a role that is given to the HOD by the Act. It doesn't say when dispute. It doesn't say that when there's a dispute. So what we're saying is that because it's a function that has been given to the HODs. The HODs must come and tell us what are they doing now in terms of implementing that function. Because even there is even a subsection where it says that those policies must be reviewed every 3 years. So it doesn't say it arises out of disputes.
Let me seek to
I
explain
wanted us to clarify that so that us and the department are on the same page. Because if we're not on the same page, that's why there will be back and forth between ourselves on what is happening. We must at least be on the same page on what the Act says.
Yeah, okay, Chairperson, the Act is quite clear about the role of the HOD. You are right that the law confers that responsibility and that right to the HOD to be the final arbiter. That is not subject to interpretation. What the regs will seek to do is to guide both the SGBs and the HODs on how to essentially implement that and how to change a language policy. The point I'm seeking to make here, Chair, is that a school may be required to change its language or admission policy, and the final arbiter in that instance is the HOD. So the point is, yes, we can convene a meeting with all the HODs to ask them what have they been dealing with. Have they been dealing with issues around the changing of policies, of admission policies? Sure, we can do that. But the point I'm trying to make is that, as far as I know, there's one school in the Free State that is currently going on a process of changing their language policy in the Free State. And they've requested for that change to be made themselves. But we are on the same page about what the law says about the role of the HODs. But also what I'm saying is that the HODs are not going to go around certain schools and saying, we're going to proactively be changing this. There has to be a process that has to be initiated. And that can be initiated either by parents, that can be initiated by the SGB, like we are seeing in this particular school in the Free State. But again, as I say, I'm not saying the committee should not summon the HODs. I think that the committee should absolutely do that, to say, how are you equipping yourselves with this new added legal responsibility that you have? I think that's perfectly fine. But as I'm explaining how it is that the process will unfold. Then, Chair, the other issue, so that's the language policy, that's on the targets. And then you asked the issue around the Children's Amendment Act. Chair, it's also just important on the lawmaking process to understand that in as much as we are and have drafted and are in the process of drafting the Children's Amendment Act, and trust me, I am on the department and pushing them hard to complete this process. Because the legal making process or the lawmaking process is not in the full ambit of the department, but is in the hands of parliamentary legal services, we can't essentially say we will finish doing this, or we will finish, the act will be finalized within 6 months, because we don't know what the processes of the parliamentary legal services will be. So the part of the reason why we've been generous with that target is because, yes, we are intending it on handing it over to Parliament, but the parliamentary processes don't fall within the department. And so then it would be unwise to then prescribe as to exactly when you will complete or have the legislation passed, when the process is actually not yours, because you are not the lawmaker. Parliament is the lawmaker. So yes, you can say we can draft it, but we can't dictate when the act will be finalized, because of course the process will then be handed over to you as Parliament. So that's part of the reason why that target has been rather generous. But I can guarantee you it's not going to take us a year to finish the drafting of the Children's Amendment Act. And I agree with you that it's very pivotal towards our own targets and strategy around ECD. And then the last question you asked is around the role of ministerial task teams or advisory councils. I think also just to highlight that the department has in the past used a lot of experts to influence some of the policy decision making. So let me make an example. For instance, the ministerial task team on history that has come and presented to you, that's part of the advisory work. The ministerial task team on inclusive education, It's also part of advisory work, and they're doing incredible work that will help us with our policy on inclusive education. The Education Advisory Training Council will also be looking at issues around curriculum. How do we strengthen curriculum? Again, it is about bringing experts, because it's important to use expert advice and evidence-led advice before you can even start making changes to policy. So I want to guarantee to the members that the department has used a lot of experts in the past to inform the work that it does, because it's good governance practice to do so at all times. So that's where why we've got such targets. So Chair, those were the 4 things on my plate. I don't know if there are any other follow-ups on your side besides what we said we would provide in writing. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. The issue of the advisory council, the question was not on an advisory councils. The question was that APP members, am I audible? I hope I'm audible.
You are, but you're breaking up
in your
quite a
APP.
bit.
You are saying I am.
We've lost you now, Chair.
We lost you, Chair. I think
hope it's better. I hope it's better now. I was just trying to change my network setting here. Okay, I hope it's better now.
Yeah.
The question on the advisory, it was on in your APP, you're saying you are targeting or you are planning to release 2 reports from that council. And the question was that on which matters, because it can't just be reports. You're correct. The task teams that have been there before, they were specifically assigned to deal with a specific aspect or a specific issue that is going to assist the basic education sector. And of course, at the time, it will be prompted by a certain need. For example, if we're speaking about mother tongue based or bilingual, then you say, we're going to release a report, or we are going to work on, this task team is going to work on a report concerning this matter. And the reason why we want to have expert advice on this matter is because it's part of our key priorities, and our plan is to do this and that and that. And that was the question, not on either but the question was on which matters are they going to be focusing on, and how do we assert that there is value for money. Why are those matters important to the department currently? The matters, the 2 reports that the task team are going to be working on. We need to know what kind of expert advice are you seeking on in the education, because they're going, you're correct, that they are going to influence policy. So we need to know what policy are you trying to influence?
Yeah.
That was the question. The second one on the Children's Act. Very clear, you and I, we understand each other. Your role is drafting. That's what you are saying in the APP. Now, my question was on that role, that you want to draft the act for the whole year. Because the question was not on the finalization of the process. The question was on the drafting. Because if you're going to draft it for 12 months, it means by the time it gets to Parliament, it will be after 12 months. And that was the question. If you don't plan to draft it, to do a draft for 12 months, why is your target 12 months? Because it is very specific in your target. It doesn't speak about the entire process of making the act. It speaks about drafting. And that was my specific question, that you are planning to draft, and these are amendments, by the way, which work has already been done in the drafting process. So you are also giving yourself a whole year to just draft before it even comes to us, to do the Parliament process. That was the question. So it was not about the entire process that involves Parliament. It was about the part that is done by the department.
All right, may I come in to respond to the two questions you
Yes.
posed? All right, okay. Let's start with the National Education and Training Council, which you are. The reason why I answered the question about expert advice the way that I did, Chair, is because you asked on the value of counsel in the department. Do you get value for money? And so it was important for me to help understand that this is over and above the National Education Training Council. There's also a lot of value that we derive from expert advice. But on this specific one, the National Education Policy Act gives rise to the National Education Training Council. That's the first thing. So it's derived from existing legislation within the department. It's also important on the issue around value for money to understand that the members that are appointed to this council will not be remunerated. They are an advisory body and not a decision-making body. They are not a board or a council or a state entity, but they're a national public entity. There's no law, there's no change in law that they may be empowered to do, but on particular, and where we want to really utilize the work of the council and where we've looked at people who are strong and where they're strong on matters of, in particular, matters around curriculum. Because of course we can agree here, Chairperson, that as a country, we want to see that we're consistently strengthening our curriculum to make sure that our learners are leaving the schooling system with the quality product in their hands. We've consistently been asked, for instance, on things like the minimum pass rate and issues like that around the 30% that learners are expected to get. Those are some things that we can't just simply say, well, no, that's not the case. But we constantly have to, pressure check on whether or not our curriculum is it up to speed with the changing world. Are we making sure that we are strengthening it as much as possible? And so those are some of the issues that we will be really utilizing council for. But it's important to note that the reason why it's different from a ministerial task team is because a ministerial task team, as you rightly point out, would be responsible for responding to a particular question, a question about history being made a compulsory subject, or a question about inclusive education. But this advisory council exists as per the law and will consistently be an advisory body to the minister, where they don't necessarily have to go to tender for a particular ministerial task team. But the work of the task teams continue. But I thought it was important to also note that there's no remuneration of these members, but this has given rise to the education policy by the National Education Policy Act. And of course, any work that is undertaken by the council, the members of the portfolio committee will be very much appraised of that, to know what work is being done, what kind of work are they looking at. But it was also just important to note that. Then on the issue around the Children's Amendment Act, the Act, Chairperson, is already at a far more advanced stage. In fact, the drafting process is almost complete. What remains a hurdle for us is around the Office of the Chief State Law Advisor. And so we will definitely not be taking the entire year to draft this bill. This bill is almost in its final stages, and so it has to go through these various steps before it can get to Parliament. But as I said, I can assure you, it's not going to take a whole year. But it's important that, because not everything is within our own powers, we've had to give ourselves time so that in the event that there are unforeseen hurdles that are not within the DBE, then we can be able to account for why there was a delay, but not simply meet a target because there was an issue with the state law advisor. So I can guarantee you, and I can say here to the members now, that the bill is almost done and it's almost complete, and that it will be going to the Office of the Chief State Law Advisor. I don't know if there's any other questions, Chair?
No. There's no any other question. Just to say in closing, Minister, we will be sending the requests on presentations from yourselves on the BELA implementation, and you will of course lead the presentation with the provinces, the HODs or the MECs. Secondly, that these two reports, you will have to advise us. So firstly, you said on curriculum. So if the department is intending to change the curriculum or to get advice on curriculum, we would need to know. So these two reports, you would need to advise us, even if you advise us in writing on exactly what two reports are you looking at, because I don't think you can just plan that this year we're going to get two reports from this council, but you don't know exactly what kind of reports you are looking at. Lastly, that the drafting of the act, if you are saying it is almost done, still I don't understand why your target would be a year, why you would say no, it's a year, because it's as if we are planning to delay. You know, you're planning. No, I don't want to put myself under pressure. You see, so that's why I want it a year, yeah, so that they don't ask me if I don't do it, and for us that is very concerning. It's concerning because if it is all it's almost done, because when you were correct when you said the process of drafting the APP takes a lot of information into consideration, a lot of aspects, a lot of factors. And some of the factors is those ones. You look at, okay, how far are we with this process? So it means it may take us this amount of time to conclude the drafting. And then you set a target. So that is concerning. So you might need to respond perhaps in writing on what exactly informs you not putting yourselves under pressure. What is this relaxation of yourselves? You might need to explain to us on that matter. Honorable Shkwambane, I'm noting you, and then we will just be closing and thanking the department. Minister, I think what we are saying is that you can respond, and we want you to really give us an outline of what will be happening in this year. What is this unforeseen circumstances? Because, of course, when you do APP, you also look at you do what do you call it, a SWOT analysis and risk. You say what could happen, what could go wrong. So tell us in writing, why do you think you need a year to conclude the drafting? So that in writing will really appreciate that response in writing. Honorable Shkwambane.
Thank you, Chair. I think I don't get a sense from the Minister with regard to my request as to when are we actually going to get, because I requested that the Minister provide or furnish us with the new guidelines for the implementation of the Bella Act. Is she going to provide such information to us or not?
Oh, so there's guidelines. You've requested for guidelines. Okay. I'll ask the Minister
I want her to respond to that one, Chair. Just allow her to respond as to whether are we getting them as published or no, or if does she have them? If she doesn't have them, then it's fine. But if they are there, are we going to get them?
Okay, no problem. The Minister will respond to that. Honorable Low.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, I did pose also a question, I don't know, on the detailed letter of the state law advisor, if I can maybe send a letter to the questions. And then there was a question that I also posed, I think, of can the minister agree with us that the regulations process has been completed as far as March 2025, so that I can be able to, and then the rest I'll send them to Mr. Brown. Thank you.
Okay. Honorable Ngube, you're the last one.
Thanks, Chair. Nami ngibe nawo umbuzo ukuthi bathi uMinister uthini mayelana nale issue yama-payments aka-Grade R. Angiyitholanga impendulo yalokho ukuthi iyiphi isolution abanayo okanye iyiphi imizamo-ke asebeyenzile. Why bengakhokheliwe e-KZN? Bayazi futhi mayelana nalokho ukuthi nje basichazele nje ukuthi how far sesenze u-1 no-2 no-3.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Ngube. Honorable Minister, those are the follow-up questions from members.
Thank you very much. Chair. I just want to quickly go back on just a question you asked. Yes, we will provide you with the written response. But I don't ever want it to be seen as though we don't have details when we come to the portfolio committees as ministers. The CEM had approved the draft bill of the Children's Amendment Bill on the 26th of May of this year. So that was last month. And so it is ready now to be taken through the cluster system. In parallel to that, the bill was submitted to the Office of the Chief State Law Advisor on the 9th of April. So for pre-certification, which is a requirement before even the bill comes to Parliament. The Chief State Law Advisor raised two outstanding matters. They wanted us to specifically in the Act define the definition of an ECD center in relation to an ECD program. So they wanted that there to be, before they issued the pre-certification, they wanted that to be clarified. They also wanted us to clarify specifically in the Act the role of local government towards childcare facilities as is envisioned in Schedule 4B of the Constitution. So our legal services is now currently in the process of meeting with the Chief State Law Advisor on these two specific definitions. Because remember, they may just be looking at it from a purely legalistic point of view. We need to then advise from our side, from an education point of view, what we mean by those things. And the DG is leading that process to make sure that the definitions that the Chief State Law Advisor is asking for is provided for, and that then a pre-certification can be given. Now, again, as you can see, Chairperson, on our side, the drafting is done, the draft of the bill is done, it was approved by CEM, but there's additional processes. So there's no relaxation, Chair, except we don't want to be tardy. We don't want to, as they say in my language, you know that a lawmaking process is difficult. It is a long process. So why then give yourselves 6 months and then you're going to come back to the portfolio committee and say, oh, well, there were issues that were raised by the Chief State Law Advisor, which we didn't foresee. You should be able to foresee those things. You should be able to foresee that the legal making process is an arduous one. Of course, if you don't take a whole year, that's the target. We are done already. It's June now. We are done with that draft bill. But there are things now that have been raised to us by a different organ or state, which we must rectify. So what I'm trying to say is that it's not setting a low target because you want to lowball the public. We want this act passed as soon as possible because it really does clarify a lot of roles, particularly when it comes to local government and what they need to do to assist us with the registration of ECD centers. So I just thought, let me give, like I said, it will be provided to you in writing as you've requested, but it's important to understand where exactly that act is. Then with regards to guidelines and regulations, I think Honorable Shikwambana and Honorable Low, their questions are interlinked. Honorable Low talks about March 2025. I'm not quite sure what deadline he's referring to, because at the end of last year, after the president had assented to the act, when it became law, we said it would take us about 6 months to draft regulations, which will go out for public comment. As I indicated when I was responding to you, Honorable Low, that you will have we are aiming to have those regulations published by the end of June, as we had said at the end of last year. We are not reneging on that commitment. That is what we are saying we are going to still do. So the regulations will be available. And then Honorable Shikwambana is asking, do I have the regulations on my desk? Can I share them? The regulations are currently being drafted and they will be shared with the public, including members of parliament, by the end of June. With regards to guidelines, Chairperson, guidelines are a very normal part of the department's body of work. In fact, you'll remember Dr. Whittle was talking about policies around bullying and some of the guidelines that we've issued to provinces. So guidelines are a useful mechanism for the sector to be able to be guided on how best to interpret a piece of legislation or a piece of policy. They are not binding, but they are useful to guide on how then do you implement certain things. Yes, guidelines have been issued to the provinces. In fact, we've made them available on the website of the DBE, which they can be sent to the members But once again, I mean, the guidelines are there as a guide on how to interpret the certain provisions of the Act. But for us, the bigger target here is the regulations, which are obviously legally binding, and we want to make sure those are out as by the end of June, as we had committed. And then there was a question also about the issue around the payments of grade R. Honorable Member, I had indicated that yes, we are aware that there are massive financial issues and concerns within the Department of Education in KZN. We've had numerous engagements with them, and I also indicated that we are hopeful now that the Premier has committed to effectively inject a large sum of money into the department, that they may be able to bring relief to a lot of some of the problems that they have, including the non-payment of grade R teachers, including some of the norms and standards that they have been asking about. So those are the undertakings we've done. And I also indicated earlier that it's not just limited to KZN, and that these interventions are interventions we are making across the board, because we are concerned about certain provinces and their inability to meet their financial obligations. So those are the questions, Chair, that I had on me. Thank you.
Okay, can we lower our hands, or is it new hands? Honorable Mgadi, can you lower your hand? Honorable Shkombana?
Thank you. We are lowering our hands, but we are not happy with the responses of the minister. It's fine.
Okay. Thank you very much to the department, Minister. We will await the written responses that have been requested, and we hope that we get those before the next meeting, so that members can engage with those written responses. So thank you very much for your time. And we will then release yourselves and the department, and members of the committee, let us remain so that we can deal with minutes. Mr. Brown, we do have a set of minutes, ne?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Have a good afternoon, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Good chair.
Minister, Mr. Brown, we do have a set of minutes.
Yes, Chairperson, the minutes of last week, the 10th.
Yes. Honorable members, we have minutes of the last meeting of the 10th. We were discussing the Children's Act. We had invited the Portfolio Committee on Social Development as well. So obviously these minutes will also serve in their committee so that we can both adopt the minutes. I do hope that we members got the minutes in time and they went through the minutes. Are there any corrections, any amendments that members want to propose on the minutes? Honorable Shkombana.
Please check. Can you please go back to the page where it shows the members of the portfolio committee? There's something I saw there I want us to correct.
Okay.
Particularly, okay, it's well captured. Thank you.
Okay. Any other amendment, comment, correction? Mam Kaba?
Hello. Hello, Chair.
Yes, you are unmuted, Mam Kaba.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay. We're dealing with the minutes, Honorable. If there are no amendments, corrections, can we then adopt the minutes of last week?
Yes, Chair. I'm sending to move the adoption of the.
Okay, Mam Kaba moves for the adoption of the minutes. Any seconders? Honorable Law?
Thank you, Chair. I second the minutes adopted by Mamkab.
Okay, the minutes are duly adopted. That was our last item. Before we go and close the meeting, Honorable Shkombana, as I had promised that I will give a feedback on the oversight. We've engaged with the Office of the House Chair on this possible oversight, but when we engaged with the House Chair, we could only speak for ourselves as a portfolio committee, so we couldn't speak on behalf of other portfolio committees. What we were made aware of is that, one, in terms of the program, we were supposed to have oversight visits, I think end of June. Mr. Brown, if I'm correct. In terms of the new program, the oversight visits are end of June.
Yeah, Chairperson, just to indicate, originally before the revised programs, we had the June oversight period, but that was taken away after the revised programs the revised parliamentary program came out. In fact, if memory serves me, I don't think there is an oversight period between now and the end of this term. I will just double check, but that's the information I have.
Yes, yes, that's the correct information. That's what I wanted to explain that. So we had an oversight period for the end of June in terms of the initial program, and we had wanted to schedule our visit during that oversight. Now, given that oversight, there will be no oversight period for any committee in this current term, and that's what we were informed by the Office of the House Chair based on the new program. We were told then to make a special request as a committee. Now, our special requests, which we have not made yet because the House Chair said to us, there is going to be a meeting of all the chairpersons to look at the budget, the current allocated budget. As I said before, even with the G20 session that we went to, we had to go, before they approved it, we had to go and engage the House Chair on where exactly the budget is going to come from. So we were told that there will be a meeting of the chairpersons where we're going to look at the budget, where each and every committee will know the budget that they are allocated. And then it will become our own decision that we want to use that budget allocation to do this oversight, this special oversight visit. However, that meeting has not taken place. So what we can do, which is what I think we can do, Mr. Brown, we can make a special request even outside that meeting, because that meeting has not taken place. So for now, we'll make a special request without us knowing what is the allocated budget, how does it look like. So we can make that special request, which I think, Mr. Brown, let's agree to make it today. And let's look at the dates. The difficulty now is that on the 27th of June, which is next week, the schools are closing. Now, it means when we do make this special request, let us look at what is happening in the first week of the schools reopening, because we want to go there, unless if we want to go there when schools are closed, but we might find it difficult to find the workers at the school, at this specific school. So let us look at when the schools reopen, the first week of the schools reopening. Let us look at that, because what I have seen in terms of the current program, we will be on the constituency period. So we might be on constituency period when the schools reopen. But we can look at that and utilize the first week, make an application to utilize one day of the first week to go and do the special oversight visit. So I wanted to clarify that and get the advice from the committee that we could not act on writing the special request on the basis that we were informed that we need to be briefed firstly as committees on the budget allocations. And I think perhaps the budget process is what delayed that meeting of the chairpersons. But we can still make that special request and just hear what the House Chair, what will be the response of the House Chair on that special request. But then it will have to be when the schools reopen, which will be, Mr. Brown, it will be when? When do the schools reopen? I think it's the first week of August, or is it end of July?
Chair, I speak under correction, but I think it's closer to the end of July, first week August. But as you correctly indicate, we will probably be in a constituency period, but we can still do the application. It'll just have to go to the Chief Whip's office for final approval.
Okay, let's do the application in the meantime, and we will then just update the committee on what becomes the Chief Whip and the House Chair's responses. But let's do the application. I think let's do the application because I do agree that we can't wait for that process of the budget and informing committees. That process might maybe take longer and than anticipated. So perhaps let's just do the application in the meantime, and then we can have that. We can take the discussion with the Office of the House Chair based on their response. I hope that is in order. Honorable members, that was the last item, and we will advise members on the next meeting on either it's going to be physical or virtual. We'll check with Mr. Brown. We'll check on the items and check the feasibility of having it physical. I think we should have it physical, but we'll advise members by tomorrow on how we're going to have that meeting. Thank you very much, honorable members, for your time, and thank you for your participation. The meeting is officially adjourned.
Thank you very much, Chairperson.